Okay. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. We are on item 3A, the tax rate hearing, public hearing for the 2020 school tax levy for FY21. As provided by state statute and duly published, the public hearing will be held at 5:30 p.m., at which time citizens may be heard on the property tax rates proposed to be set by Rolla School District 31, a political subdivision. The new tax rates will be set to produce the revenues which the budget for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 shows to be required from the property tax. So first we'll have a 2020 school tax levy for fiscal year 2021 presentation. Kendra.
Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to try to do this with the mask on. If it's a little muffled or whatever, let me know. I can take it off, but that doesn't quite seem right. So annually, the school district must prepare a tax levy calculation, and the tax rate forms and supporting documentation are on pages 4 through 17 of your board packet. Just a little background that the tax rate calculation is governed by specific constitutional and statutory directives, such as filing deadlines of September 1st and having a public hearing like we're having this evening. Additionally, our calculation has been submitted and approved by the state auditor's office. So in completing the tax rate calculation worksheets, we start by entering July 1st assessed valuations that we received from the three county clerks. That's Phelps County, Marys County, and Dent County. And we enter assessed valuation, not appraised value. So appraised value is similar to market value, while the assessed value is the amount that the tax rate is applied to. So for example, an item that is categorized as residential has an assessed value of 19% of the appraised value. So the calculation is, assuming a local residence is appraised at $150,000, we're going to multiply that amount by 19% to come up with the assessed value of $28,500. So just looking at the assessed values by categories this year compared to prior year, we've had an overall assessed value increase of $5.62 million. The base assessed valuation increased by $737, real estate new construction improvements by $4.7 million, and personal property increase of $141,000. So this slide provides the calculation of base assessed valuation, which is the assessed value of the property that is in the district both this year and last, and the corresponding percentage increase. A little background on this is that there's the Hancock Amendment, which limits revenue growth on existing property to the lesser of three factors: either the actual increase in value, the consumer price index, or the statutory maximum increase. In this case, we're limited to the actual increase in value of 0.1713%. Now that represents the permitted revenue growth on property on the books in 2019, and is then used to calculate the total revenue permitted in the current year, which is in turn used to calculate our tax rate ceiling. Another factor in our tax calculation is the Prop C rollback. So Prop C passed in 1982, and it provides for a 1% statewide sales tax. Our district is one of a handful in Missouri that does not have a Prop C waiver. Therefore, we are required to reduce our property tax rate by 1/2 of the Prop C revenue received in the prior fiscal year. So this shows the Prop C rollback calculations for the current fiscal year and the last two. And you can see here that our required Prop C rollback amount is 42.15% this year. That represents about $1.8 million in revenue. So our operating tax levy is calculated by dividing the total revenue permitted by the adjusted assessed valuation, then multiplied by 100, in this case resulting in a tax rate ceiling of 3.7639. We then reduce that by the Prop C rollback, resulting in an operating levy of $3.3424. Our debt service levy is based upon our total debt obligations for the next 2 calendar years, the anticipated debt service fund balance at the end of this year, and the total assessed valuation. That calculation is on page 13 of your packet. This year, the calculation allows for a debt service levy of 37.83 cents. However, we're going to recommend this evening that the board approve continuing to roll back that levy this year by 7.83 cents to have our levy remain at 30 cents for this year. As a reminder, the Rolla School District, we passed the R31 2020 bond issue on June 2nd, but the debt service levy will stay the same until next August 2021. This is just a recap of the last about 10 years of our tax levy history. And then to give an example of how to calculate the tax impact for a residence, again, we're going to take that same residence of $150,000 appraised value, so $28,500 assessed, times the tax rate, divided by 100. Their total tax due is $1,038.08 for this year. That is an annual increase over last year of $3.44. I don't have the screen up here this year, the slide. I usually do, but it's really hard to read. That's the one with the candidates and salary survey listing all 27 districts that we compare ourselves to in many different factors. One of them is the tax rate. I did verify that we would remain at number 22 in that list of 27 districts with this tax rate that we're proposing this evening.
And when you say 22nd, as in?
Almost at the bottom.
On the bottom.
Correct.
Okay.
So, are there any questions about the tax rate calculation?
You're looking at me.
I am looking at you.
I have a question for myself to look at later to how to get
Okay.
to that maximum tax, but I understood it when I went through it.
Okay. I always feel like I'm talking in circles when I get
I
up
know.
here. It's a very, very complicated calculation, so.
Yep.
Okay. If there are no other questions, then I do need a motion to approve the tax levy
Okay.
as presented.
The next item is a request for any public comments. If you have that, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Persons wishing to comment will be granted 5 minutes. Is there anybody wishing to comment on the recommendation for the tax levy? If not, then I would request a motion to approve the tax levy as recommendation as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second? Thank you, Mark. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kendra.
Thank you, Kendra. Okay, item B is board recognitions. Board of Education and MSBA would like to recognize Sue Daly for completion of 100% of her online CBM essential training for new board members. So that's 18 and a half hours, I think. And we would also like to recognize Carla Clayton for completion of the 3-hour refresher training. So I have a certificate for each of you. Give to you, and you want a picture? Go out to the front. Social distance. Take your mask off for a moment.
I'm sorry, yep.
We'll leave them on, one or the other. One at a time?
Is that okay?
That's sure.
If you want to stand apart and take.
We'll stand apart.
Okay.
Try not to
I know, I know. I'm getting caught in the
Okay.
background of the picture.
Okay, if I'm on this side this time? Okay.
What are you trying to say?
Yes, you
finish,
do.
Mark, then
What?
can do that for you. Item C, at this time, any person wishing to speak on any question previously discussed through administrative channels and not on the agenda will be granted 5 minutes to make a presentation to the board. Please state your name for the record. Seeing no one, we'll go on to item D, presentations on agenda items. Any person wishing to speak on any item on the agenda will be granted 5 minutes to make a presentation. Anyone? Okay. Consent agenda, item 4. A consent agenda is utilized by the Rolla Board of Education as a means of dealing with routine matters which must be considered by the Board of Education but require a minimum of discussion. All Board of Education members receive and review written information supporting the items listed on the consent agenda well in advance of the meeting. While any Board of Education member is welcome to remove any item from the consent agenda for separate consideration or discussion for any reason, normally all items on the consent agenda are approved in one motion with a minimum of discussion. So it is recommended that the following items be approved, and that is items A through J.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda items A through J.
Okay, thank you,
I'll
Carla.
second that.
Thank you, Carla. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's a message, or that motion carried. We'll go on to item 5, new business. Item A is the annual Secretary of the Board report. Mrs. Atkinson will present the annual Secretary of the Board report. That's also known as the ASBR for approval by the board.
Okay. So the annual Secretary of the Board report is a comprehensive report that includes revenues, expenditures, fund balances, debt service information, and transportation data. It's used by DESE for various data comparisons and calculations, and it must be submitted to DESE no later than August 15th of each year. So the full report is on pages 62 through 89 of your board packet. So I'm not going to dive too deep into the data. It's a lot of numbers. So if you have any questions on any of that, I will take a note and I can answer you later if you want any detailed information. But I will say part 1 of the ASBR includes the summary revenue and expenditure figures and fund transfer data. So after all revenues and expenditures have been reported, our ending fund balance for fiscal year 20 is 35.61%. The fund balance for the district indicates the amount of resources available to pay operating expenditures. Our board policy, as a reminder, states that our fund balance floor is 17%, which represents the ability to pay approximately 2 months of obligations, assuming no revenue is received. So to refresh your memory, the fiscal year 21 budget was based on an estimated ending fund balance for fiscal year 20 at 31% roughly. And when I update the current year budget with the new ending fund balances, it's at 19.01%. So we're above that floor, so that's good. Hope to keep it there, we'll see. Moving on, part 2 is a listing of all revenues received for the year reported by revenue and revenue code and fund. Most of our state and federal funds are received via DESE as a pass-through entity, and in addition, the county clerks have to report to DESE the amounts and types of payments they send to each district. So all county, state, and federal revenues on the ASBR is cross-checked with DESE's data, so if it doesn't match, we get errors, and so it's a good double check for the district and our, how we've coded everything throughout the year. Parts 3A and 3B show all the expenditures for the year, reported by program and fund, and program and object, respectively. And again, the district receives reimbursement from any state and federal expenditures via DESE. So our expenditures must match what we've reported early in the year when we've requested those reimbursements. So again, just a really good double check and cross-check for us for all the entry that we've made throughout the year. Part 4 is a reconciliation of our debt principal and interest payments, as well as any new issues added within a given fiscal year. So that is ASBR in a nutshell.
Okay.
Any questions?
I've got a couple of comments
Okay.
on my review of it for our new board members and others. So I did some calculations based upon the last budget I had. So we were about $200,000 to the good on our revenues, even though we received less state funding than what had been approved. It was kind of in line. Our expenditures were about $4.5 million less than we budgeted. And when we're using that number, we're always overly conservative on our expenditure budget. But that impacts that percentage that you see at the end of the year because it's divided by a higher number. So that makes about 3 percentage points difference right there. So we had budgeted 22% for an ending balance. We ended up at 35. To give you a little comfort with what we budgeted here back in last month or whenever we approved the budget in June. So it was a strange year, I'll say, from the number standpoint, because we had expenses that we didn't have, and we had revenue that we didn't get, but then we got some other revenue to offset part of it. So anyway, it's interesting numbers.
Yes.
She's the secretary of the board, but you get to do the report because you're the numbers lady. I appreciate all the efforts. And so does Myra,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I think that's an antiquated term or name of that report, so.
Well, yes, but it's, a lot of work, but it has valuable information to look at years to come. So
Thank you. So I do need
you need an approval,
an approval.
so she can submit it. Sue is given the motion for that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Carla, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried.
Thank you.
All right, I got to get back to my... Item B is the Phelps Health presentation. So Dr. Gurrell will do a presentation about offering telehealth for Rolla Public School students and staff. I'd like to welcome you, Dr. Gurrell. While you're coming, I want to provide a thank you to Phelps Health for donating a bunch of material for the school district. 1,000 masks, 750 face shields, and 750 N95 masks. So we do appreciate that. And we had a thank you last time, but we weren't on TV, so this is so everybody can hear that.
Well, we really appreciate that, and we also appreciate giving us the opportunity to come and talk about our telehealth experience and doing a partnership with you and as a school district. So let me make sure I know how to run this. And so, first of all, I probably should introduce myself, make sure everybody knows. I'm Rochelle Gurrell, I'm a family medicine physician, and probably like Mrs. Atkinson, if the mask is a problem, do let me know. I'm also here with some team members. Lacey Schultz, she's our EPIC program director. Gerald Dowdy is our senior vice president of medical group operations, and Jeff McCune is our IT director. So they'll be able to help with any technical questions and stuff too at the end. So first of all, just to give you a little background of our telehealth experience, telehealth was on our horizon of putting that in place. Actually, would anybody mind if I take the mask off?
No, go ahead. No.
I feel like I'm breathing a lot of hot air. So, as I noted, that we had telehealth going and in process, but with COVID, it dramatically changed the need for telehealth. It became abrupt that we had to do something. When we hit the lockdown and we, tried to do like everybody, keep our vulnerable patients at home and really help still take care of them, but it was getting hard without some kind of interaction with them. And so we really pushed telehealth up, and within like 10 to 14 days, we had webcams, speakers, all the services and hardware we needed in our clinics to actually provide telehealth. Lots of training. Dr. Abishan and myself were talking to a lot of physicians, and primary care was kind of the first to really dive into it. So it really gave us the ability to offer services in the midst of concerns of public safety and our vulnerable population. So from mid-March to end of May, we did over 4,500 visits between our pediatric patients also all the way to our senior care team. And so that's anywhere from sick day visits to chronic care management, taking care of your hypertension, diabetes, looking at rashes, doing even evaluations of injuries. It's really interesting, having done hundreds of these visits by now. I have come to know that the family can be a lot of your examining partner. And so they can really help us, check for strength, check for, helping with the camera so it's placed in the right position to look in a throat. So there's a lot of things you can do with telehealth that we never imagined. And so it's really nice to be able to come over here and offer, not only for your students, but also for your staff. So going into that, COVID was our big reason of why we had to do it. So I wanted to give just a little background, since you guys are working with students really from, we'll say, 5 to 18 or 19. The numbers right now, and this was recent data from the state health departments and the state data that the American Academy of Pediatrics came out with, that 9% of our all confirmed cases are under the age of, and the states did a little different. We'll just say 19 and under. Some of them did do a little older, but for Missouri specifically, we're a little bit higher than that at 11%. You can see 2.4 is 0 to 9, 10 to 19 is 9.2%. Luckily, kids have mild disease, usually don't have the severe complications, and only just above 2% end up in the hospital. And luckily, only 0.2% of the cases end in death. And so we're very pleased with that information. That is different from our influenza population. Just like as you've been working with mitigation factors, the transmission is close contact via respiratory droplets, coughing, sneezing, being in close contact. But just some other tidbits, adults are more commonly to transmit it to children rather than the other way around. And of course, your high schoolers are going to be more like an adult and transmit more often than the younger kids. Just to review of symptoms, and I try not to make this too busy, but I wanted to give you some good information. It's listed from the most common at the top all the way to the bottom. The ones that are bolded or highlighted, the cough, loss of taste or smell, shortness of breath, are really high-risk COVID symptoms. If you have one of those, you really need to be evaluated for COVID in this day and time. In the local area, I work a lot with our COVID shed across from the ED, and the cough, headache, and sore throat is the most common things we see from our positive patients. So it's been really interesting hearing the stories. Known exposure, of course, is a risk for COVID. And the definition is if you're in contact within 6 feet of a positive patient and exposed for greater than 15 minutes. Those are your patients that, again, also with that known exposure should probably be evaluated. If you have something like that, they shouldn't return back to your school or work for 14 days from the last exposure, even if they don't have symptoms. So that'll come into play as you start school too. Know that a COVID positive patient is infectious for 48 hours prior to symptoms and for up to 10 days after the symptom onset. And that gives a lot of information of when to let people come back. Whoops, there it goes. Screening. So we'd really encourage, and we'd like to help you market that, is to encourage screenings at home by the parent before they actually come to school. Temperature screenings are good, but they're not as high a sensitivity as we'd like. So symptom check is actually more reliable. A high index of suspicion, of course, if they have known exposure, and of course if they have illness. Right now it's COVID season, it's not influenza season. So, thinking of COVID before anything else. So one of the ideas just in marketing is to even get some information to the parents is maybe even like a fridge magnet, that we work together to have something at the home that they can easily look at and see what the symptoms are and have a number to call. We'd love to do telehealth with your school nurse, but we can do telehealth with your patient or staff before they even come to school. So that option is for both times. So our goals would be to identify the ill child early at the onset of illness so we can eliminate exposure to other students. We want to screen and evaluate them efficiently so we can determine what's best to do. Do they need testing? Do they need to be at home? Do they for sure need to be in or out of school? So part of the goal would be to educate students as well as their parents and guardians and the rest of the family and community. And so that would be one of the symptoms, what to do. The other thing would be proactive to encourage vaccination. This is probably one of our most important years to get everyone flu vaccinated. The less cases of flu we have, the easier it's going to be for us to deal with the COVID situation. So we'd want to try to educate and really promote that. So our telehealth partnership that we are wanting to offer is to provide telehealth for all your Rolla public school locations, elementary to high school. We'd help to make sure we have the appropriate equipment there to have efficient use and evaluation of the student. So whether it's the webcams, the speakers, whatnot, we need to do for the evaluation. So we would use our EPIC electronic medical record that we are putting into to effect here shortly to help provide that and help to document and educate, provide information to the family, but also it would be a good health community citizen that we are doing that to help with continuity of care. We know we don't take care of all the pediatric patients in their community, and we want to be good colleagues. So again, another goal of the partnership would be to have appropriate follow-up to ensure that our goals are being met. Are we taking care of the kids? Are we helping the school nurse? And really look back at those things. So the telehealth equipment that we would need, and Health would make sure that each location has, is a workstation. And it needs to have a webcam and a speaker. We need to visually see the patient and the school nurse, and we need to hear them. So we'll help if that's not available. We know each school nurse office might be a different shape or size, and so we'll try to help figure that out. So diagnostic equipment. School nurses are pretty good at looking at ears, listening to hearts and lungs. We may not need anything, but if we come to a point we feel that's necessary, a digital stethoscope, otoscope, things that we can do together may be required. So of course we help with the appropriate software and the IT support to make this happen. Now from you all, we would ask that you would help us provide a private room for evaluation. Just because we're doing this over a TV monitor or a computer, we still have to consider privacy, and so we need that piece to happen. We also need reliable internet connection, and hopefully, both of us being in town, that won't be a problem, because it's been pretty interesting talking with folks when they're out on their back porch down by the river. But anyway, so definitely internet makes a difference. Clinician support. As Division Chief of Primary Care, I'm definitely a big part of this portion of it. So I have my family practice physicians, my pediatricians, any of the advanced practice providers, the nurse practitioners or PAs that have experience to deal with patients of all ages be involved. And so we'd have a good clinician support team for you. The local access of care, we want at a minimum Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30, and that definitely matches with our clinic, typical day anyway. Treatment as patient is deemed appropriate. So not only will we evaluate and decide what to do, we can order medications if we find with the nurse's help that they have an ear infection or, a throat that needs antibiotics. We can do that directly from our telehealth visit. And again, more educational information. The more we can educate, whether it's before, during, or after the visit, will make a lot of difference. Administrative support, we want to try to make it as streamlined as we can. We know you all have been to a doctor's appointment, of course. We have certain information that we need, but we want to try to make it very easy for the school nurse to get us the minimum stuff that we need to make it happen. And even just starting the visit, the main thing we need is the name, date of birth, and the gender just to get it started. So we can, again, try to make it pretty streamlined. Of course, help with appropriate training for the staff that's involved, all the way from your side to ours. And billing and collection follow-up would be directly with the parent or guardian. We don't need to put you all in the middle of that, so no worries there. Routine check-in, and of course, marketing and parent information. Again, more education and keeping things going smoothly. So the school nurse, we would ask that the school nurse is going to be your first line of screening. They're going to determine if a need for evaluation happens. And so they can collect the appropriate demographics and health history. I know a lot of times my kids go to St. James, but a lot of times you give that health information when they first go. You have that information on file. We just need to somehow communicate that. We can allow the school nurse to directly schedule right into the Epic Care link through our EMR. And she will help excuse me, I need to be PC. He or she will assist with telehealth visits with students and either take vitals, most is going to be a temperature check, possibly some other things. If we would decide to do stethoscope, otoscope, those kind of things, or even just them looking at the ear to begin with, they will help us with any medical devices. And then also getting involvement with the parent. So, working on consent as well as assistance. Through our telehealth, the parent can be actually right involved with the visit, as we'll see here shortly. Point of care testing. So with COVID, the testing is always evolving. They're trying to come out with more simplified manners. At this point, though, the most accurate and the best testing is obtained by a nasopharyngeal swab. So we're going through the nose, we're going to the back of the throat, you're doing a lot of possibly triggering coughing, sneezing, that kind of stuff, and they consider that an aerosolizing procedure. At this point, and through Phelps Health, none of my clinics actually have any testing in their offices or clinics because of that risk and exposure to our staff and our physicians and things. So right now, all of our testing is being done at the Phelps Health COVID shed, which we were able to directly from our telehealth visit send an order over for those 4 things. So the COVID nasopharyngeal swab could be there, which would come back, which we have in the works, possibly a new test coming. We'd have the results the same day. But at this point, we're getting results back in 24 to 48 hours from the state lab or from our private lab in Columbia. So it's really got a much better turnaround compared to, we had a few weeks where with Quest, they were so overwhelmed it was something, but we've worked out a better situation now. The last 3, the rapid strep, flu, and RSV testing are actually happen right there, and they're done within 5 to 10 minutes. So this will be a screenshot demo. I did not able to do more virtual or live demo, but I think it'll give you a lot of information on what the school nurse is going to see. I want to see it from her or his point of view. So just as it demonstrates there in the visit, things that we can see on the monitor and the helping with the video chat. So first the thing would happen was the nurse is going to look up the patient by their name, date of birth, and gender. They'll be able to find the patient in the list, match the results, and click OK. Verify it, and even at the bottom there on the left, they can put the reason for the visit, and they'll hit accept. They'll go on into scheduling, and you as a school system will have your own resource schedule. And what that means to us is that you have a schedule that you can go into that you will only see the options for you, not see all our providers' patients' informations, and it just helps with the privacy and HIPAA. So you'll go into your Rolla Public Schools telehealth resource schedule, and the nurse will be able to put the date and then pick a time. And the time's somewhat irrelevant. It just puts them out there on the schedule. We really are making these on-demand appointments. And so with my physician and provider team, we'll be able to grab the appointment, figure out who's taking care of them, and then get it started. So we're hoping really for a very quick process. This one, once you've gotten through that verification, pick the appointment time. You can see in the left upper, you hit the join button, and then it puts it into a queue that makes it ready for the provider. So once that provider has launched the visit, you can see we have Dr. Telelink here. Brendan is one of our good guys with Epic team. And so he is on the left, and so on the right would be your student and school nurse. One advantage, we use Zoom as our platform, that with that we can add a third screen in and have the parent involved, which would be really great. And so we would be able to evaluate the student, listen to the issues going on, and then also talk to the parent at the same time and talk about what's next. After visit summary is a process with Epic. It gives you that summary after the visit with the MyChart portal that comes along that patients can have. We can actually send that right to them. The parent can then see what we've done, if we've done medications, what the vitals were, and even what the diagnosis is. Or we can have, hopefully with the nurse's help, we can print it and send it on too. So we can figure out exactly that process. So again, I mentioned, what do we determine particular about COVID, about when to return to school. And this is, I'm no sure, things that you have been looking at, because I've seen a lot of the state education, not memorandum, but that whole 100-something page thing that came out. And I agree with the CDC. This is actually from the CDC guidelines. If you have a symptomatic COVID patient, they have to go 10 days from after the onset of symptoms and have 24 hours without fever, without medications, and have improvement of symptoms. So whatever the symptoms are, we've had anywhere from just diarrhea to the whole gamut that I listed. The asymptomatic patient, if they happen to have been around somebody, got tested, then they go 10 days from the date of their test. And if they have known exposure but no testing, they would go 14 days from their last exposure. So we can help determine when to get kids back into school, or even your staff. So I leave it open for questions, and again, I appreciate the time to visit with you. I really do think we could take care of all kinds of problems like we have with telehealth so far. So even if that's from your student that's sick, or your staff member that has something going on that wants a visit, we can help with that. So I would open up for questions. Again, my team can help if there's anything that I can't answer.
Okay, questions? I'll ask one, just for the parent to join in, they could get on the phone. They wouldn't have to have, be in a position where they had to have a camera, so they could,
We could actually come up with
Audio only?
the phone part, where we just hear them. But a lot of times with the Zoom, it's pretty easy to come in there even without the video part of it. Would that not be right, Jeff? I mean, they can, as long as we can hear, or if we have to, just do a regular phone call.
well, yeah, I meant audio. If they're on their phone, they could do audio, get
Yes.
on.
Yeah, the important part for us is to see and hear the patient.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All
Well-
right, I have a couple questions.
Yes.
What would be the typical length of time for a telehealth visit?
So it tends to be probably like our usual, it'd be 15 to 30 minutes. I wouldn't think any more than that. I mean, the actual visit with the patient at the time, over the video and,
You know, you have nurse, you've got a nurse, and she's got a bunch of other patients,
Right.
students coming in, so how much of this would maybe require her time? Or
I
his?
would say at probably average, definitely less than 30 minutes, probably even less than that. Because she's probably already checked a temperature. We just need to grab that information from her, have the visit, and move on. So, it's not going to be like your typical coming into the office and, as much there, because the nurse has already done some of that for us ahead of time. So, and again, she just needs to, like I said, vitals and have the story for us, essentially.
And then if we were interested in wanting to implement this, what do you think the implementation time would be?
So the time frame we're looking at is to go live with October 1st when we go live with Epic, since we're using Epic as our platform, and we've already got the Zoom in place, so we're looking at October 1st.
And the nurses, as far as their training goes, I assume Phelps Health would take care of that? And
Yep.
do you know approximately what kind of time that would take for them?
Just to go through, so one, we'd have to verify the equipment and make sure we got the software on there, so that wouldn't even include the nurse themselves, but I would think that would be a fairly quick process of just getting them into that Epic screen, scheduling, and that. What do you think, Lacey, on time?
We can do a variety of different ways of training, virtual training, we can set up a Zoom session and train the nurses. We could also do recordings, so we could have our trainers do a recording, and then we could send that so that the nurses can watch that too. We can also have documentation, what we call quick start guides, or tip sheets to walk them through. Epicare Link is very, very simple. It's designed for community healthcare partners, so that they can really just work through the workflow very quickly. So it's very, very minimal. I wouldn't think more than 30 minutes, perhaps to an hour of actual face-to-face training if we needed to do that, but it will be a very simple process.
Any other
So-
questions?
I'm wondering about what the process would be for parents to opt in for this. What's required for that child to see a doctor beforehand? So,
Just as consent directly?
to consent that, yeah, they're gonna, yeah.
It's not uncommon that even from our clinics, say grandma brings them in and we don't have anything written, we just do a verbal consent from the parent.
Okay.
Yes,
So you
we can
need
do that
that
by
before you could see the child.
That would be preferred. Now, there may be something in your paperwork and your registration that may already cover some of that. So if you was, so that's something we could work out and make sure that we're just covered completely. I'm trying to think of what I have to do for my St. James child and, remembering, if there's emergency, this is what we do, whether that would be, a consent to cover that.
Michelle, who would be watching for the appointments to pop up?
So that's what we've been talking about too, is having a designated person that can be watching for those to come up. And of course, we would know who those providers are at the time. And so with Dr. Creedy being familiar with our situation, our walk-in clinic is always doing our walk-ins. And so we can, whether, if they're the designated people for the day, having a nurse or even our front desk staff being watching for those appointments. So. And of course, we've already come up with a designated person if for some reason it doesn't seem to be working right, that the school nurse could just pop in and call and say, hey, I've been doing this, it's not going through, what do I need to do? And so we're trying to have that designated person, especially since you have multiple schools that we have one person they can all just reach out to.
Will this be mainly run through like urgent care or something like that?
So the idea at first would be our walk-in providers, our pediatricians, and any family practice that is available. And then when the ICC goes up in Rolla later on, we'd also involve them too. So just thinking through, we already have, I would say, 5 or 6 for sure, and then adding on at least 1 or 2 more with the ICC when it opens. That's our immediate care clinic.
Thank you.
Everybody's got their abbreviations, right?
You looked at me.
No.
I always ask what those,
Sorry, abbreviations,
I
right?
always ask what those abbreviations mean, don't I, Greg?
I was hoping
know.
someone would ask. If not, I was going to have to.
Sorry. We're kind of known for those abbreviations.
We've gotten a chance to see this presented to us from a couple of different districts through Missouri School Board Association, Hollister and Bell, right?
Right, Mary's R2.
Yes. Just out of curiosity, I know there's different levels of care. Would you handle something like prescription renewal or some of those? I know I don't want to put words in your mouth. You're not really taking the place of a primary care provider.
I mean, we can do routine visits. We don't want to necessarily step on any toes of their primary care physician now, but we'd gladly help out if that's what the parent wants to do.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, we want to be good colleagues, and so we're not here to steal business. We're here to help out and, make it easy for kids to be evaluated or
Well, and
staff members or whatnot.
Easy for parents, too.
Yeah.
Not having to take off work or spend, half a day trying to get into the doctor's office
Right.
and the pharmacy and all those things.
Yeah, because I could definitely imagine the school nurse possibly involved with that kid that's maybe got some behavior issues and maybe their ADHD med's not quite working and we've been struggling, so let's try to get help. So yeah, I could see where that would maybe be considered more routine, but we could definitely help out with that because I can't think of any of our primary care that doesn't do that kind of care, so. As an example. And actually, it's interesting even doing some injuries. Again, a lot of times on an injury, so if you have someone slip and fall and you're worried, is that, necessarily worrisome that I need to go somewhere? We can do a fair amount of evaluation with the nurse of motion. They could poke around for us and see, they're walking out okay, we probably don't have to get an x-ray, just go ice it, let them, be kind of immobile today and, go on. So, yeah, there's a lot of different scenarios that we could help with.
Good.
Okay. Well, again, thank you very much
Thank you.
for the presentation, and we'll see where this leads.
All right, very good.
Item C, just the Board of Education future issues. The fall board meeting dates are listed September 3rd and 17th, October 1st and 15th, November 19th, and December 17th. Oh, I can see. Thank you. So we don't need any action. Those have all been approved. We'll go on to old business. Item A is the selection of a board candidate, and this is to replace Shannon Lusk, who had to resign at the end of July.
Dr. Dare, should we, Brian and Mark, if you want to sit, we don't have a role in this. If you two want to take our places at the front table so that you could speak to the board candidates and ask them questions, you're certainly welcome to. And Dr. Dare and I can move off to the side. Okay.
Okay. So this is a process for our policy takes place in open session. We have 6 candidates who have applied. So as a board, we need to determine how we're going to move forward to select the candidate, because it's not really listed in there. We will hear from the 6 candidates. We decided that. We'll ask questions of each of them, and then we'll have to get down to a single successful candidate. So I did a lot of thinking about how to do that and manage that process, so we can either deal with that now or after we've heard from the candidates. So what is your druthers? Decide how we're going to vote now?
Sure.
Do that beforehand.
Okay. So I suggested that we have 2 rounds of voting, since we have 6 candidates, so that we all didn't have 1 vote per candidate. And the first ballot would request you to rank your top 3 candidates on a piece of paper, but it's a public vote, so this is just to simplify everything and tabulating the votes. Myra is going to read those votes and who they're by, and then Craig and I will tabulate that total. We would take the top 2 candidates, and then we would have a hand vote to see who had the most votes, and that person would be selected. And then I would have suggested if we have a tie on the first set of votes, that we eliminate those people below the tie, repeat that first step. And then if we have a tie during the second, we'll just have to discuss and keep going until we don't have a tie. So, any comments, suggestions in modifying that? If not,
Sorry, I was outside conversation.
I'll see that.
Sorry.
I think that sounds great.
Okay, is there a motion then to adopt that process? Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Sue. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So we are going to ask one at a time for the candidates to come down. We have 2 candidates tonight that are unable to be here, so we're going to do their interviews by Zoom. But to come down so that we can get everything on, the audio on to fidelity. So, and we're going to do it in the order that we received the applications. So one moment here. So the first on that list is William Zwinkelmeyer.
Close enough.
Close enough? Well, you can correct me or teach me. So you've got 5 minutes to tell us about yourself and why you want to be on the board and anything else you want to tell us, and then we'll ask questions while you're up here.
Awesome. Mind if I take this off?
Absolutely.
All right, thanks. Well, good evening. Thank you so much for your time here this evening. My name is Dr. William Zwickelmeyer. Will is perfect. Don't worry about the last name. I'd like to start by giving a brief background on my personal and professional history, and then I'd like to speak a little bit as to why I think I would be a productive and a thoughtful voice for our community as a member of this board. I'm here tonight because I believe that a top quality education is the most valuable gift that we can give not only to our students but to our community as well. I think the work that the district is doing is the very definition of the reap what you will sow proverb, right? So the education we're giving our students right here in this community is consistently providing dividends to the community of Rolla tenfold. I pride myself on being labeled a lifelong learner. I've spent my entire career in education, I gained my bachelor's degree in music education, my master's degree in education with an emphasis in educational technology, and my doctorate, you guessed it, in education with an emphasis in STEM enhancement. As I put in my board application, my study for my doctoral dissertation focused on our Rolla High School students' test scores for their EOCs and how they relate for low socioeconomic status students for co-curricular interventions towards academic achievement. That's a mouthful, but I'd love to share more with you later. So I began my career as a high school band director right here in the Rolla School District, and as a band director. And since then, I have taught at 2 different school districts, and I have also worked at 2 different universities. Right now, for the University of Missouri Science and Technology, I am the director of the Career Opportunities and Employer Relations Office. I get to spend my days helping students take their dream job and try to turn it into the reality, which is a really great job. That's the best thing I've done since teaching in high school. So I really think that my experience in both secondary and higher education would suit me well and would be an asset for you on this district, on this board. I do have 2 little girls at home, one of which is really excited to get her first day as a kindergartner at Mark Twain this year and finally become a bulldog like mommy. She's tired of being a bullpup. She's ready to be a bulldog. Speaking of mommy, my wife, Dr. Lawrence Wickelmeyer, is a physical therapist at Phelps Health, and she's also a graduate of Rolla High School. So 5 years ago, we chose this town to raise our family. And notice I didn't say we chose this town to raise our family in, not just because my high school English teacher would kick my butt for ending in a preposition, right? But we chose this town to raise our family. I say that intentionally because I think it takes a village to raise a child. And this is now our village, and these are now our people. And I feel it's my responsibility to contribute my skill and expertise in a way that I think can impact the whole. I also believe that our teachers and administrators are the experts in the field, and that the board's job is to support those professionals fully while also ensuring that the district moves forward in a direction that aligns with both the values and beliefs of our Rolla community that we call home. And lastly, I want to say that I understand the gravity of the moment in time we're in and the struggles that we're all going through, and I'm in tune with how very, very important it is that we as a community continue to make decisions in a people-centric fashion, and that we do so with kindness and empathy, the kind of kindness and empathy that we would like to think that our people deserve, right? And finally, as a parent, I do appreciate, this is my chance to thank you as a board and as a district, all of your work in that specific vein over the last couple of months. Really appreciate and I applaud your effort. And with that, thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay. Thank you. Questions for Will?
Yes, I actually have a question for you. So an individual school board member has no authority. Only the board as a whole can make decisions for the school district. How would you handle a situation where a parent approached you about a student or a teacher concern?
Sure. Yeah, so as an educator, I dealt with that pretty often, right? And I know that I can probably imagine a few times in my teaching career where I heard people say, well, I'll just go talk to the board, or I know someone on the board, right? I think it's important that our community knows that this is a group decision, and I think that's a chance to educate parents that although we may have a personal relationship, my position on the board is really that of a team that makes a team decision, and kind of explain the role of the board to the individual and help spread that word. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Great.
Thank you.
What do you see as the role of sports and activities?
Yeah. Okay, so I don't want to get too deep into my dissertation, right? But I studied...
That one right up there.
So I studied specifically music. I studied band and choir to see if those students of low socioeconomic status, just the mere participation in that co-curricular activity could boost them up and help close that achievement gap for those students. Spoiler alert, it didn't, not in a statistically significant way, but boy did it make an impact anecdotally. And so I am a firm believer that both co-curricular and curricular activities are very, very, very important. I know that full well that students sometimes just come to school for that opportunity to be a part of a team, right? And our job is to educate them and make sure that they walk away with the knowledge, and we'll do anything we can do to get them to be happy to be here and feed that information. Yeah.
Other questions?
Outside of being husband and dad and an employee, what do you do with your free time? What are your interests?
Free time?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, you know, I hate to be cliche, but I'm a very busy guy. And the best thing that has ever happened to me in my life are my two little girls, right? So my free time is their time, and it belongs to them. So I spend a lot of time just being goofy, and that's my new thing. I stopped playing music about the time that I stopped teaching music. And people used to ask me, do you miss that? And my answer is no, I don't. Strangely enough, I've never missed music. What I've missed is the students, right? I miss getting to be a teacher and being in a classroom, which is why I love my career choice now, to get close to the students and make an impact. Yeah.
Okay, other questions? No, thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Okay, next we have Keith Grayson.
Pull this down also. Good evening. I appreciate everyone giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. So my name is Keith Grayson. I'm coming to you this evening applying for the position of Rolla 31 school board member. And I know each one of you has gone over my questionnaire that I filled out, but I kind of like to recap a little bit of it. My wife, Melissa, and I have been married now for 18 years, and the last 16 we have lived here in Rolla, and both working at the hospital at Phillips Health for over 20 years now. So, and tell you a little bit about myself. I've been a paramedic now for just shortly over 42 years. So the first 20 years I spent on the fire department in Clayton and St. Louis County. And I also have 23 years as a flight paramedic. The last 13 I worked with Mercy Lifeline out of St. Robert. I spent several years as district administrator for the ambulance in Steelville, overseeing the budget and day-to-day operations. And I was also served for 4 years on the board of directors for the Crawford County 911 Center. I was also a teacher here for the Rolla School District. I taught at RTC, teaching the EMT and paramedic program. Dr. Zales hired me at that time. And I've always been a strong advocate of learning and passing along my education, knowledge, and experience to new paramedics. And like I said, as stated before, I've been at Phillips Health now as a paramedic for going on 23 years. So I do have a vested interest in my children's education, with 2 that have already graduated from Rolla. And I currently have a 14-year-old son who's getting ready to start high school, and a 12-year-old who's getting ready to start junior high. I've been active in each of the children's education throughout their school career. While my youngest 2 were in Wyman Elementary, my wife and I were both on the Wyman PTO, helping with their functions and fundraisers. And I look at becoming a school board member to pursue a new avenue and remaining an active participant in my children's education. I believe that as school board members, we have the responsibility of providing the community with both vision and mission statements. The vision should outline the school's objectives, and the mission statement outline how the school plans to obtain that vision. We should remember to keep in mind that most of all of the education and welfare and well-being of our children, and provide the best avenue possible for all groups and ages of children, especially during the current time where the COVID pandemic has changed how we educate and keep our children safe. Many of our families are struggling with which avenue to take, the seated versus the virtual, taking into account child care, meals for their children. Are they going to be safe at school? I believe that the Rolla School District has done its absolute best under the direction of the superintendent and the board to provide the safest return to school possible for the seated students, and to offer virtual learning to those parents that aren't yet ready. And I've been working as a healthcare worker in the ER, the ambulance, and here lately for the past few months at the COVID testing tent since all this started, and am current on all the CDC guidelines and practices, and believe I can be a valuable asset in that area moving forward. I think it is responsibility of the board to develop policies governing budgets, the curriculum, the employment of the superintendent, the staff, and maintaining a good relationship with the community. With students being the main focus, I believe an effective board member looks at school policies and curriculum practices that will benefit the students most. The board is also tasked with studying a budget and analyzing to see if the funds allocated are meeting the students' needs and driving their performance. I believe it's the responsibility of the board to understand the community's values and wishes and be able to engage with the community and meet any challenges in terms of education. And I believe as a school board member that we should, as a board, should be able to collaborate and accept input from the superintendent, staff, and parents. Every student needs the same opportunity to learn, maybe with the different methods that adapt to the student's needs. Also, as a professional in the workforce and as a parent dedicated to my children's education and the education of the children of the Rolla School District, that I can work with this current school board, the superintendent, teachers, and parents, and to ensure that the students receive the quality education that Rolla schools are noted for while keeping their safety in mind. I have the sufficient time to dedicate to the position of school board member, and therefore come to you as a qualified candidate, and I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. So question?
Yes, I'll ask my question to you as well.
Sure.
An individual school board member has no authority. Only the board as a whole make decisions on the school district. How would you handle a situation where a parent approached you about a student or teacher concern?
I ran into similar issues when I was on the board of directors for the 911. I'd have employees come to me, or members of, say, an ambulance district or fire district come to me with concerns about how things were being done and wanted me to make a decision, but we were always have to collaborate with each other. Decisions should be made as a team. That's what we were hired or elected to do, is to make decisions together to provide the best for the student or for the community.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
What do you think of the role of sports and extracurricular?
Well, my daughter has been on to me about this when she was concerned. Right now, my wife and I have decided to start out with the virtual learning for the first couple of weeks or the first quarter. She is in volleyball and cheerleading, and she was worried she wasn't going to get to participate. And I believe that the the co-curricular activities are so important to the students for their making friends, for just being able to be together with their friends and work with sports and whatever.
Outside of home and work, what kind of things are you interested in? How do you spend your free time?
Well, I am working towards retiring right now, so that is my goal within the next year or so. Right now, we are working on remodeling our home, so we have got a lot of things going on there. It looks like a disaster right now, but putting in new windows and new bathrooms, and it's just, and that's kind of where my free time has been spent right now, and trying to keep my kids busy during the 5 months that they have been out of school. So yeah, her sister moved down from Chicago. She is was a teacher in Chicago. She moved to St. Louis and is currently a teacher at Parkway. So they moved a little closer. So my kids, I've been trying to get the kids together with their kids to spend some time together with their cousins. So yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Other questions? Not, thank you, Keith.
Okay, thank you.
Our next candidate is Tracy Jenkins, and she's going to join us by Zoom. So give us a moment while we get that projected up. I can see Tracy. Okay, so we want to hear from you. Okay.
Time out.
Time out. Hold on a second while we get the audio a little louder here.
If you start wiggling cords, we might lose her.
Welcome to 2020.
Use a phone for audio, or will you use my?
That's better.
Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell her to speak a little bit and test.
Tracy, you
Yes.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah, that's
Can you
good.
hear me?
Okay, so I
Tell
don't
me
know.
if I get too loud.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard the process we're going through, so we're going to give you 5 minutes to introduce yourself to the board, tell us about yourself and why you want to be a member, and then we will have an opportunity for board members to ask you questions. So, did you hear that?
I did very faintly, but I think wanted me to talk about myself. So, hi everyone, my name is Tracy Jenkins. I'm a lifelong resident of Rolla, Missouri. I have 2 sons enrolled in Rolla Public Schools. Logan will be in 7th grade and Ty in 4th grade. Both are venturing landmark changes this year with new schools, not to mention COVID. I am grateful that my husband Matt and I run in a community that we take pride and enjoy the community. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration with an emphasis in accounting and over 28 years experience in finance in many areas such as forensic accounting, auditing, fraud investigations, grant management, contract proposals, payroll, medical insurance, budgeting, forecasting. And I know it sounds crazy, but my personal favorite is problem solving. It is really. I have been a part of Wyman PTO leadership since my son Logan was in kindergarten. I think I was kind of tricked into it because I thought we were just going to be exchanging cookie recipes, but that's how it all started. It's been many years that I've been involved with volunteering for several things for the school system, as well as this year I was able to serve on the calendar committee. That was a fun new adventure. That's really all that I have about me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you tonight. If you guys have questions.
She will not be able to hear their questions, so after they ask one, you'll need to relay it.
Do you want to read mine? It's written out. If you can read my handwriting, I apologize. It's at the very, the two bottom ones. Yeah.
Yes.
An individual school board member has no authority, only the board as a whole can make decisions for the district. How would you handle a situation where a parent approached you about a student or teacher concern?
I would take it to the board and discuss with them. The same thing we have happen with, we do fraud investigations. We review it as a team and look at it collaboratively and how to respond to the situation.
Okay, thank you. She only had one, there was 2 paragraphs.
Okay.
Next. Okay, Mr. has a question regarding your importance of sports and activities in education.
Okay. He was my coach for volleyball, so that's a good question. It's been a few years. So I feel that sports, my boys are very active in wrestling, basketball, baseball, football, so I am all of those moms wrapped in there. And when I was in school, I played volleyball, and I feel that it is, it helps the students to be involved in team activity to help grow them as a student as well as a person. And you're, enriching the child with all aspects. So I feel that sports are critical growth.
If one had free time, what would you do with yours? It's a little different.
Jameson is asking if one had free time, what would you do with yours?
In my free time, I'm learning to bake different things. COVID has given us that time with family, right? So baking, I love to take walks, learn something new, maybe sewing. But most of the time I'm with my family. You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
I would like to ask Tracy to expand why she wants to be a member of the board.
Mr. Packard, Tracy would like for you to expand on why you would like to become a board member.
When I first saw the opening, I feel that I participate in our community and I volunteer where the need is. And I'm thankful that there are so many people that are willing to volunteer and be a part of the board. I really just felt like it was a civic community responsibility that you do what you can when you are able to. And I feel that I have a skill set that is, I don't know if it's fitting for what you're needing, but it's a different skill set than most. So I felt it would be useful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
And then we'll be back with her.
And Tracy, if you will mute, then we'll be back on with another interview from someone else, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next individual is Jessica Barron.
Go ahead and keep that.
Don't fall.
You want to ask Jessica to unmute?
As soon as I get where I'm supposed to be.
No, just click on her name up there. There you go. And hit that little pin button. The little pin looks like a thumbtack.
Thumbtack.
There you go.
There she
And
is.
you can ask her to unmute.
Jessica, will you unmute, please?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you, but I'll have to convey the questions to you, okay?
Okay.
So, yeah.
Mr. Packard, they approved, you'll have approximately 5 minutes or to tell a little bit about yourself and what your interest is in being a board member, and
Okay.
then they will ask you questions.
Okay. Perfect.
Go.
Am I good to go? Okay. Well, thank you. I'm Jessica Barron. I am a lifelong resident of Rolla. I'm a 2006 graduate of Rolla High School. I went on from there to SLU and stayed there for about 1.5 years and missed home terribly. So ended up coming back home and getting my degree in business administration from Columbia College. I have been a financial advisor now for about 9 years. I was working in Cuba for the past 8 or so and still living in Rolla, and was able to come back to Rolla and open my own Edward Jones office about 1 year ago now. So I'm a financial advisor and CFP with Edward Jones, and I just really love my hometown. I love this community that we live in. We're so fortunate to live in a small town. Well, I guess it's not so small, but it feels like a small town where you know everyone. And I just really like to give back any way I can. I'm on the Rolla Chamber of Commerce board at the moment and the Ozark Actors Theater board. And I'm married. I have a husband and an 11-year-old stepdaughter. And I just, yes, love to give back any way I can. And I think it's important that any of these opportunities that come up, that the school board or whatever has a vast pool to kind of choose from to pick the best person for the position. So I'm very passionate about the education that I got from the Rolla Public Schools and how it really set me off down a great road. And I'm very, very fortunate for that. So any way I can give back, I'm happy to do so.
Okay, so the first question will come from Mrs. Clayton.
Okay.
And it's, an individual school board member has no authority, only if the board as a whole, can make decisions for the district. How would you handle a situation where a parent approached you about a student or a teacher concern?
I would say, first of all, I think that they should talk to either the teacher or the principal. I think that the problems should first take place there and see if they could be solved there. And then if not, then I'm sure that the principals would bring it up to the superintendent and kind of go up the chain of command that way. But I would encourage them to kind of try to deal with the problem more local before it got brought up the chain.
Okay, thank you. Same question.
Importance of, what does she think of the importance of sports and activities and education?
Okay, Mr. Sells would like to know what you think of the importance of sports and activities in education.
Oh, I think it's very important. I think that schoolwork should come first, but I think it's very important to be well-rounded and be involved in other things. I wasn't involved in sports. I'm very klutzy and not coordinated, but I was involved with drama in the plays, and I think it's very important to get a well-rounded education and not just in academics. Of course, that's, you know, number one in my opinion, but I think it's important to have that camaraderie and all of that that comes with sports as well, and it teaches discipline and lots of lifelong things.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Yes. What would she do in her free time? What are her interests outside of home and work?
Other than right at this moment, if you had time, because I know where you're at.
Yes.
What would you do with your spare time if you had
Yes, well, I'm currently in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. My family and I love to travel, so that's something that we're very passionate about. Is we love traveling and exploring. We have a beautiful country, so we like to get out and explore as much as we can. I also like reading. I love reading in my spare time, and my daughter dances competitively for Miss Megan's The Dance Studio in Rolla, so we love to watch her dance and travel all over for her competitions.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I think we are good.
Okay. Ms. Cynthia, you'll just mute, and I'll
Okay, yep.
you guys stay on for the rest of the interviews.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Next is Leah Hickerson.
Hey, Myra, before you go ahead and click the pin button again. Go ahead and click the pin button again. And then you should be good to go. Everyone's muted.
I'm Lee Hickerson, and professionally, I started my teaching career in Springfield Catholic, where I taught English. I was there a year, but Rolla is the district that offered my husband his first teaching job, offered him a home. So after we were married, I joined him here, and Rolla offered me a home as well. So I taught English at Rolla for 6 years. After that, I was offered an administrative position with Mary's R2 school district, which I accepted. I served as their high school principal for 3 years, and then I was offered a position at S&T, which I accepted. So I just started at S&T in July. And so this transition to higher ed has kind of had me thinking more about public education from a reflective stance, because I'm not, personally hands-on engaged in that process right now. I'm still very, very passionate about public education, and that's really what brought me to apply to be a board member. In my short tenure as an administrator at Mary's R2, I came to depend on the Rolla district quite a lot, because that's where I got the bulk of my experience. And so, I'd pick up the phone or I'd email Dr. Zallis or Dr. Pritchett, and they were amazing. And they really gave me so much. They gave me confidence. They gave me really information about things that you just don't get unless you get it through experience. And so I so appreciate that system. And so my experience through the system as a teacher, as an administrator, as a colleague to the administrators that are just phenomenal and in this district, I really am passionate about giving back and still being part of that process. It's really important that, that students, teachers, support staff from all the way through the hierarchy, they really have the support of a board. It's really, really important. As an administrator, I kind of can empathize with some of the things that you would like a school board to do in their functioning. So that really is something that I feel like I do bring to this position on the board, is the experience. And, I really feel that, taking that position on the board would keep me kind of involved in something I am very passionate about, even though I have made that step to higher ed. And so it's definitely a journey. I'm working on a doctorate currently in education. And so it's kind of a professional goal of mine to be on a school board, and this just happened to come up as I was kind of working through. And fortunately for me, I made the transition to higher ed, and now I have the time to serve on a board. So, because before that would not have been possible as a high school principal, I was quite busy. So, it really did feel like a perfect storm for me, and I feel very fortunate for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Ready for me?
Yes.
Sure. All right. So an individual school board member has no authority. Only the board as a whole can make decisions for this district. How would you handle a situation where a parent approached you about a student or teacher concern?
Sure. I think the first and foremost that the parent needs to understand that they have to follow chain of command. That is absolutely essential. As a teacher, as an administrator, that would be something that I would so appreciate from a board member is, that I shouldn't be blindsided. I want that to follow that chain. There's a reason that the chain of command exists as it does. And it's important that we respect that so that we're respecting those as professionals in their fields. They are the professionals, they are the experts, and they need to be respected as such. So, you know, taking it directly to the board or something such as that kind of is a roundabout disrespect of their position and their expertise. But also I think it's important that those parents or community member, whatever it may be, are well informed that, you know, the board, it is a group decision. It's not about power. That's not what a board is really about. The board's really about being a guardian for the assets of the district, and that's time, money, whatever those assets may be. And so it's kind of that duality of them understanding the role of a board, but also understanding that chain of command is essential and important.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Sports and activities really are kind of the nucleus that lets students explore who they are as individuals, which is huge. You know, the education is so important, but it's also important for them to understand and discover who they are, what they love, what they're interested in, what brings them to school every day. Sometimes that's the case, fortunately or unfortunately, and that's where they find their niche. And everybody needs to find their niche in order to grow into well-rounded adults, which is, you know, essentially what the school district does. They're training adults. And so, you know, for this global economy and for the wide variety of job opportunities that students can take advantage of, I think it's very important that they do find a niche other than academics that helps them bring that full circle.
Outside of work and home, what kind of interests do you have? What do you do in your free time?
Currently, my free time is taken up by a lot of dissertation work. However, I really do like to read. I was an English teacher, and, you know, that passion never dies. So I do like to read. I like to crochet. I like to walk my dog. Nothing too thrilling or exciting, probably, but enjoyable kind of decompression time.
Are there other questions for Leah? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Our last candidate to hear from is Andrew Giger.
All right. Hi, guys. Thanks for taking the time to hear from all of us. I know we all really appreciate it. And about me, I grew up in Rolla, basically shaped by the district in a lot of ways. I was a 2010 graduate. My application was fairly concise, so I'll expand on it a little bit. After I got the education from Rolla, I went to Oklahoma State University, where I have a bachelor's in political science. Rolla's dual credit and advanced placement courses allowed me to finish that degree very quickly and move on to DePaul University College of Law, where I studied constitutional law and school law, graduating in 2016. After graduation, I went to work for Schick Bacon, a law firm in Kansas City, where I was with my wife and we got married. After that, I was working basically in litigation analysis for products liability, very not exciting stuff. I didn't enjoy reading things from our client of big pharmaceutical companies, paperwork and stuff all the time. It was not what I wanted to do. And after we had our child in late 2018, my wife and I moved back down to Rolla to be with both of our families that are here. And so currently I'm a stay-at-home father. I think why I'd like to be on the school board is I offer maybe a different or unique voice than you guys have had before. I, like I said, graduated a decade ago, but I think I'm in tune with people that are in school now. I think you see with a lot of kids these days there's more activism. I think that's going to continue, and I think I have kind of an ear for what they have in mind and what they have to say. I know there's a ton to learn with coming onto this board. I mean, the financial stuff alone, looking through past agendas and notes, are a little daunting to learn, but I know that's probably everybody that goes this process. Like I said, growing up in this district, after elementary school, I'd go to my dad's office at middle school, and after middle school, I'd go to my mom's office at Mark Twain. In the summers, I'd deliver new textbooks with my brother, and This district really shaped me for my life beyond here, and it somehow has brought my family back because we love this district. We love the opportunities that it gave both of us. One of the first things we did after we got home was enroll our daughter in PAT. Mary Beth Hogue has been excellent, and we just, God, it's been the best decision we've made in terms of her education going forward, even though she's only not quite 2. I think the Rolla community is the greatest asset to this board, or to this school district, and we have to do everything we can to foster that and allow that to continue. I mean, we can get, you guys get bond issues passed during a pandemic, and everyone that I can recall in my lifetime has gotten through. I think it's because of the leadership of this board and the administration we've had in the past. So I think that's all for me.
Okay.
For me?
Yeah.
Hi. An individual board member, school board member has no authority. Only the board as a whole can make decisions for the school district. How would you handle a situation where a parent approached you about a teacher or student or teacher situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have done really well with this question already, and I think one thing we have noticed is that a lot of times these people just want to be heard. Sometimes their problems aren't getting through to a teacher or administrator, and they just want to be heard. But I completely agree that there's a chain of command that goes up. I mean, if it can be handled with a teacher or with a principal, then absolutely, that's the way to go. If that's not the case, then coming here to the board is perfectly fine. These meetings are open to the public for a reason, but I don't think any one of the board members would want each other making definitive statements on behalf of the board for anything. And I think that's one thing you learn in the law school environment is to try to make non-definitive statements if you can, so you don't box yourself in. So
That is so true.
yeah, no, for sure.
Married to an attorney.
Yeah, my wife loves it too. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that.
Thank you.
Okay. Mark?
What do you think is the role of the importance of sports and activities in education?
Yeah, I think they're hugely important. I played a couple of sports all the way through high school, and I learned a ton, but I think right now the blueprint for this is the Rolla wrestling program. I mean, you can see it was enough to have the USA Today write an article about it in late January. I mean, the things those students learn from leadership and creativity outside of a classroom setting, I don't think it can be replicated. I mean, learning teamwork, these are life skills that you can apply, unlike, and you don't learn them necessarily in the standard classroom setting. It allows all kinds of people to show themselves and learn things about themselves they might not have known before.
So outside of taking care of your baby,
Yeah.
what do you get to do in your free time, or what do you like to do in your free time?
I mean, I love spending time, as much time as I can, with my wife when she's off work. We love to do wine tastings, different things like that, and just kind of talk about wine or learn about it. We have a 1-year-old Great Dane that we have to corral around, so he's a lot to handle. So we normally just take the baby and the puppy on walks, hikes down to the river, whatever we can. We love being outside, and yeah, it's a great time.
Okay. Other questions? Who takes the home visits from Mary Beth Hogue?
Well, usually we both do, but I'm always there with them. So, yeah, she's outstanding.
Okay. Any other questions? Not, thank you, Andy.
Thanks, guys.
I want to thank all the candidates for expressing your interest in signing up for the remainder of this year's term. The position will be on the 2021 ballot for the remaining 1 year of the term. So we're just filling this year until the next election. Of course, we have school board election every year, so hopefully your interest will continue. So I'll speak for myself. It's going to be a very difficult decision.
They're all good.
Because we can only select one. You're all good candidates, so, and we only have 6 votes, so any discussion from the board? Or you ready to fill out your ballot? Or do you want to have discussion? I could ask Pearl if you have anything to add, since you're not getting to vote before we do, or about this process, or? Okay. So again, if you'll list your first, second, and third choice on one of the pieces of paper, that we'll take a couple of minutes to do that.
I do. We have to sign it.
Your name's at the top.
You have to sign it.
Oh, sign it, okay.
Oh, we sign them?
No, you don't need to sign it. You're just going to get,
Our name's on them.
Oh, your name, I didn't know your names were on it.
your name's on
Okay,
it.
Way to go,
mine is
Laura.
also
Way to
signed.
go. Way to go. No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Is the one down here open?
It is open. Yes, it's open right outside.
Okay.
You want to take a short recess to use the bathroom?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Maya, you'll need the microphone.
No, I should have done the face shield
No,
instead.
Yeah, it needs to be on.
You can take it to your seat if you want.
If you like.
Okay, you ready?
No, just a second. I'm going to use the sheet.
Anything if it's a six-way tie.
Well,
When
again,
we get there.
I think we'll fill out, again. We'll drop everybody below that tie, and if there is nobody, then let's start again. And hopefully somebody will change their vote. Trying to lick my finger, and I can't do
I
it.
was doing that. I was doing that yesterday at registration. Yeah.
It's like me trying to put chocolate in my mouth with this.
All right,
Okay,
I'm ready for you.
okay, so the first board member, Sue U. Daly, she gave Leah Hickerson 1, William Zwickelmeyer 2, and Andrew Giger 3.
Sorry, say that one more time. I got it backwards there.
William Zwickelmeyer 2nd, Leah Hickerson 1st, Andrew Giger 3rd.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, the three was,
First, second, and third?
First, second, and third.
Position.
I thought you gave three to one.
We're doing that point-wise here.
Well, get your ballot back.
Get your ballot back.
We don't have to worry about the points. We just have to rank 1 to 3.
First,
They'll
second,
take
and
care of
third
points.
choice.
Did everyone else?
Well, but if you points wise,
We're going to take care of that.
No,
First, second, and third.
first, second, third.
You shouldn't be changing your second.
that's right.
So you need to go ahead with somebody else?
All right.
It's just easier to add the points up. It's way easier.
That's not what the instructions say. So we'll go ahead with Mr. Sells. William Zwickelmeyer 1st, Tracy Jenkins 3rd, Leah Hickerson 2nd.
Okay.
Charlotte Jamison, Tracy Jenkins 1st, Jessica Barron 2nd, Andrew Giger 3rd. Mr. Packard, Keith Grayson 3rd, Tracy Jenkins 1st, Jessica Barron 2nd, Dr. Creedy, Andrew Giger 1st, William Zwickelmeyer 2nd, Jessica Barron 3rd, Mrs. Clayton, Tracy Jenkins 1st, Jessica Barron 2nd, Andrew Giger 3rd.
We have everybody back?
I believe so.
Okay. So the totals that I have, Will Zwickelmeyer, 7, Keith Grayson, 1, Tracy Jenkins, 10, Jessica Barron, 7, Lee Hickerson, 5, Andrew Giger, 6. So with trying to get to a top 2, we have a tie. So William Zwickelmeyer with 7, Tracy Jenkins with 10, and Jessica Barron with 7 are the 3 that would go on to the next ballot. Okay, so we said we really didn't, I guess we could still do the same and just use those 3. Rank them 1, 2, 3, and we'll see where we come out. And then so X out number 2, number 5, and number 6. So rank 1, 3, and 4, first, second, and third. Does that make sense?
Yes. The 3 remaining candidates.
3.
We put them in order.
Girls, can you
1,
hear
2, and
us?
3.
Second, and then third.
Yeah.
Okay.
Will and
And
Tracy and Jessica.
Just to clarify and make sure that I understand, this is still not
Fine.
the final selection.
That is
You're
correct.
still
We're gonna
trying to
get down
get
to 2,
to
and
2
then we'll vote.
candidates.
Yep, that
Is
is
that,
correct.
okay, I'm just,
Got it.
make sure we understand.
Got it.
So we hope that we got down to 2 after the first,
See if your legs still work.
You're awesome. I know. Okay, you guys ready?
I am ready.
We'll start with Mr. Packard's ballot. It is Tracy Jenkins first, Jessica Barron second, Will Zwickelmeyer third. Sue Daly's ballot, Tracy Jenkins first, Will Zwickelmeyer second, Jessica Barron third. Shirley Jameson's, Tracy Jenkins first, Jessica Barron third, Will Zwickelmeyer second. Carla Clayton's ballot, Tracy Jenkins first, Jessica Barron second, William Zwickelmeyer third. Mark Sells, William Zwickelmeyer first, Tracy Jenkins second, Jessica Barron third. And Dr. Creedy,
Can you say that one more time? I got off. Say that one more time. Mark Sells.
Will Zwickelmeyer first, Tracy Jenkins second,
Okay.
Jessica Barron third.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Creedy's, William Zwickelmeyer first, Tracy Jenkins third, Jessica Barron second.
Okay, so total, William Zwickelmeyer, 12, Tracy Jenkins, 15, Jessica Barron, 9. So the 2 candidates to vote for would be Tracy Jenkins and Will Zwickelmeyer.
Ladies,
Okay.
did you hear that?
So we're going to, did you hear that?
I could not hear it.
They could not.
Okay.
You'll need to, they're not going to hear him.
Well, they had been, but, okay, so,
The totals were Tracy Jenkins, 15, Will Zuckelmeyer, 12, and Jessica Barron, 9. So the two candidates remaining would be Tracy Jenkins and Will Zuckelmeyer.
did you get that?
No.
Okay, so
Okay.
Mr. Rounson was right.
Isn't he always?
I said it on camera, he was right. So,
You've got it recorded.
Tracy, on the second round of, we had to vote because we had a tie. So on the second time, you received 15 points, Will Zickelmeyer received 12 points, and Jessica, you received 9 points. So
Final two.
the final two will be Tracy and Mr. Zickelmeyer.
Perfect. Thank you.
Jessica, thank you very much, and you're welcome to stay on, or however you want.
Jump off. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I think we decided we would do this by show of hands. So in the order that they're presented, all those in favor of selecting William Zwickelmeyer, please raise your hand. We have 3. Okay? All those for Tracy Jenkins, raise their hand. We have 3. We have a tie. All right. So do we have discussion, or what do we do here?
I think discussion would be good.
Tracy? So they're at a tie, 3 and 3. They're going to discuss, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Do you want us to say something? You want us to say something?
I do want you to say something. I was going to wait for Mr. Hounson to get back in the seat so we could all concentrate on the speaker. Okay.
In listening to, just to show why I voted where I voted, in listening to our candidates, I couldn't help but reflect back to what Shannon was as a part of our board. And one of the things that I felt brought Tracy to the top of the list was her in-depth involvement in PTO. Did kind of crack me up, her idea that it was exchanging cookie recipes. But having been involved with PTO myself, I know what that's like, the fundraising. But that was just one of the things that I remember about Shannon, and that brought some value to our discussions and to what we get to look at and be a part of as the board. So that was not a vote against anyone else, but a vote for Tracy.
And I have to agree as well with you, Charla, with her experience interacting with the students and as well as the teachers during that time that she's on the PTO. I also like the fact that she has a financial background. That's a piece that I think would be very helpful to the board members in helping us navigate as we talk about tax levies. I know Kendra does a great job, there she is, with that. But it's always nice too to have that kind of expertise on the board.
So I voted for Mr. Zwickelmeyer, mainly because of his research emphasis on narrowing the achievement gap, which I think there is a pretty decent one here in Rolla. And I would really appreciate his insight, and I think he could help the board out quite a bit in that regard. That's why I went in that direction.
Yeah, that's why I voted for Will, because of his background in education. I've made some notes here. Director of Career Opportunities now, and he seemed very outgoing. I mean, both of them would be great, so, but that's why I picked him first.
Mark, do you care to say anything? You don't have to, I'll just, okay. Well, I also appreciate Tracy's financial background. I'm not going to be here forever, and you all can figure out the financials for yourselves when I'm done, or find somebody to replace me. But again, looking for somebody to replace Shannon, has that interest in the elementaries. We rarely have both candidates that are interested in elementaries, but being involved in that governance, those parent groups, we think we depend on them a lot. I don't know how much they'll be able to do this year, but yeah. So we'll try this one more time unless there's other discussion items. It's kind of hard. We have to replace one member.
It is.
And we don't get to do it if there's two members. Goes to the county commission. So, all right. All those in favor of Will Zickelmeyer, raise your hand. 3. Okay. And Tracy Jenkins. We have 3. Okay. Well, we're going to get the consensus one way or the other.
That's why I have 7 on the board.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Right. That's why we have 7 on the board. So. Suggestions from anybody? I'll get off of a deadlock.
Suggestions?
I don't know what to do.
Not trying to insert myself, trying to stay out of this. I don't know if you have additional questions to explore a little further or not. That's just one option. Additional items related to board candidacy. We do have both people still here and available. If you want to talk to them more, you certainly could, I think. But
I have a question.
Okay.
If you're put on the school board, do you have the time available to devote to that fully?
so I would ask, we are on TV, so for anything to be picked up, we would need both candidates to either come to the mic or in Tracy's case, speak over the computer. So Myra, do you have the mic still there at your location? You don't have to come to the podium if you don't want, Dr. Zwickelmeyer, but anywhere with the mic would be good.
I don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you. Is that a question for me?
It's for both of them, yes.
Great, yeah.
For example, like the online training was all online. It was actually 23 hours of online training. Yeah, it was a lot. And so anyway, yeah, do you have the time to devote? Because it sounds like you're a very busy person.
Sure, yeah. I was until I finished my degree, right? And then the big question was, what are you going to fill your time with, Will? And this vacancy came available, and it just seemed like the obvious choice for me to devote my expertise to. While I have the floor, I'll steal a question. And we're talking about finances. I thought it would be prudent to mention that in my time in higher education, I have managed multi-million-dollar budgets, all of the educational technology, the University of Missouri Science Technology, and our career office now. So it's not as if I'm lacking in that area. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
So Tracy, Mrs. Udaly has asked a question if you want to unmute.
Okay.
She's asking if you truly believe that you have the time available in your life to devote to the school board. She just finished a new board training, and it was all virtual, but it was 23 hours long. So
I can. This is the first year that I'm not going to be on the Wyman PTO, and I devote, I can't even count how many hours I would spend on a week working for things with the PTO. So I have evaluated that, and I feel that I have plenty of time that I can put towards the school board this year. I also work for a company that allows and encourages us to be involved in the community, and they dedicate so many hours a year that we are allowed to volunteer. Thank you.
Other questions?
I've got maybe one more question. So I think diversity is important, especially on a board like this. We do have several educators on the board, so we've got kind of that experience. You know, me being in a physician, we've got an engineer, and so on and so forth. What's unique that you guys could bring to this group that maybe you don't have or that we're missing right now?
Would you like to go first? I kind of stole the first one.
No, go ahead.
Did you hear Dr. Creedy's?
I'm sorry, no, I couldn't hear Dr. Creedy.
Oh, yeah.
Brian, if you move, yeah, there
Can
you go.
you hear me now?
Hi, Dr. Creedy, yes.
Hey, I was just mentioning, I think diversity on the board is very important. I think we've got two educators already, we've got engineers, myself, and a couple others on here.
Yes.
What could you bring to the board that would be unique?
For me, like I had said, my background has been in accounting since I began working. So I have that. I just have taken a new role with my current position at Brewer Science. I'm now working in marketing, corporate relations. I'm a little bit of an outgoing person, so I'm not for sure. Don't laugh, Myra. If I don't know you, I will get to know you. I don't like a lot of conflict, so I try to find that middle of the road and find a way or resolution that everybody can resolve together with a win-win. I know that's not always possible, but that's just who I am. That's what I strive for. You're welcome.
So thank you, Dr. Creedy. I think that's a great question, and something that I kept thinking about as I was applying for the board. I'm intimately aware of diversity issues. As a matter of fact, my first job at Missouri S&T, I worked for the University and Women's Programs Office. And if anybody's been on our campus there, most of the people look like me or younger, right? And so I did do some introspective thought on what I could offer that's a little bit different from the rest of the board. And I think one of the key things is my experience in higher education and my integration into the job market, really, because these are the two places our students are going to go. That's the ultimate location for our students, whether they're going to get a job right at a school or they're going to pursue their higher education. And I'm very aware of the specific needs of higher education and very in tune with the ever-evolving job market. So I think I could bring that perspective in getting our students prepared.
That was a good question, Brian. Thank you. Anybody else have a question? I'm waiting.
For another question?
Giving everybody an opportunity to ask that question.
Do we have to vote tonight? I know it's open now, but I mean, sometimes just sleeping on something can sometimes help.
That's true.
I think it would be better to get it resolved tonight, because we're all here at the table. So, but it really doesn't say, I don't think in the document, it doesn't say that. Does it?
Perhaps a better option if you have another tie vote, if you want to table it till the end of the meeting. I have a nice long presentation, at which point you can drift off and think about it, and you could do it afterwards, but I don't know if you want to take another vote at this time or not. Yeah, it ties up their time a little bit more, but. It's not helping my self-esteem any at all here.
It'll be a test.
I don't know if you want to take one more vote, see if you're still tied or not.
Or is everybody okay to take another vote to see if we're tied? Yes? All right. So all those in favor of selecting Will Wickelmeyer, please raise your hand. Okay, so we have 2 votes. All those in favor of Tracy Jenkins, raise your hand. So 4-2. So Tracy would be selected. Congratulations, Tracy.
Tracy?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so they just did a revote, and it was 4-2 in your favor.
Oh. So that means,
You're not here tonight, so we cannot swear you in, so that'll happen at our September 3rd meeting, beginning of the meeting, I'm assuming.
So he's saying, as I told you earlier, that whoever was selected would have to actually be here and present. So you will actually get sworn in on the September 3rd meeting.
okay.
So thank you, Will, Leah, Andy, and Keith, for your interest again. We're going to, December will be here before we know it, and we'll have openings, two normal openings next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this
Right,
the
and I can
special.
complete our term and the special election.
So we're always looking for good candidates. All right.
You guys did make it easy on us.
It was tough.
This is really hard.
Tough.
Everybody was so good.
You guys were very, very good, all of you.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but certainly understand if you want to do something else with your evening, so.
He really wants you to sit and watch his presentation.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and let's end this, and then I got to put Mr. Housen's presentation up, okay? We'll get in touch and
Do you watch on YouTube?
So item C,
Yeah, she could, what?
watch the rest of the meeting on YouTube if you'd like.
item C is the
Sounds great. Thank you, Myra.
back to school planning. So we're going to have a discussion regarding online licensing and stipends, and we'll have an action associated with that. It's kind of cut off on the page. So Mr. Housen,
Okay.
I hope you were joking about the long,
Well,
I hope it was just a threat to get us to
no. So I wanted tonight to update you on things that have taken place since you adopted or approved our Return to Learn plan on July 30th. So a lot of work has gone into it. So a little reminder about our goals as we've gone into this planning. Obviously, a safe environment for everyone, students and staff, physical, social, emotional, mental health, by the way, what we're offering in our schools and the choices we're giving parents. Obviously, multiple layers of risk reduction as we welcome students and teachers back into the building, and the ability to respond should we have changing conditions, high-quality educational experience for all students, no matter which mode of learning fits them and their families the best. And obviously, we're doing everything here to try and get a full year of instruction with kids in our buildings. Again, I won't go through all of these, but this is just a reminder of all the supporting guidance that went into our Return to Learn plan and expertise that we leaned on to build our environment within our schools. And then also the input and feedback from within the district to help review our steps along the way, to finalize our return plan and really refine the parts that are in there. So again, we thanked them last time as we did this, but we weren't on TV at that time, so I want to thank the District Steering Committee for all of their help throughout this long summer of planning as we've been getting ready for this school year. So Tonight, these are the items I'd like to update you on. What we've done with the Return to Learn plan since July 30th, a little bit about our instructional design in the classroom, cleaning and sanitizing plans that we have, student activities, and then events that have taken place this week as we begin to welcome people back into our buildings. So our Return to Learn plan adopted July 30th is our full, we are using this as the umbrella for our full district operational guide. And I would say there are three major components to the plan. School operations, so what we look like in the building and the steps that we're taking to keep everyone safe. Our plan for cleaning and sanitizing. And then, as we heard a little bit earlier today, case identification and containment. So those three prongs, everything fits under one of those three parts to our plan. So what we've done since the adoption is we've taken the plan and we've taken it from a planning phase into putting it into practice and defining what this looks like in our buildings. Because this plan looks different in an elementary building than it does a high school building, but it's still the same principles within our Return to Learn plan. We've done a lot of planning with our district administrative team, talking through the various situations that occur in buildings and seeing how the Return to Learn plan helps guide the actions that we will take. They, in turn, then have met with their building leadership teams to meet with teachers to get more of their questions and to share the Return to Learn plan with their leadership teams to help educate teachers what steps will be necessary once we open. And I will tell you, we're not changing major components of the plan, but we are continuing to refine and clarify. And you can imagine the number of situations that you might get, that we get asked about, what if this, what do we do in this case? So it's taking those major principles in the Return to Learn plan and putting them into practice. Our communication plan, we will have signage all over our buildings, and Gina's done a very nice job of pushing out information on our website and social media. So you heard during the Phelps Health presentation the idea of some infographics, and I had linked those in this presentation, but when we tried it earlier today, it took us to places and not to where we wanted for the infographics. But you're going to see those, so a symptoms check infographic for parents, we do have that. If you go upstairs, you'll see we have really, I guess, can I say the word cute bulldogs with masks saying thank you for wearing your mask. We've got mask signage to kind of simplify that for parents. So that Return to Learn plan is extensive, but it's so extensive that a regular parent and student aren't going to take the time to read all of those details. So Gina has done a very nice job of distilling those key points down to those things that we really need students and parents to know as they return to our schools. So.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes.
So one of the things that we really notice is that kids, they don't wear the mask properly. You know, they have a tendency to wear it down and keep their nose out of the mask portion.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that like the teachers are going to work with them on to try to make sure that they kind of learn a little bit more about how to use the mask?
So some of the things, that is one thing that we will work with kids on. We'll have hand washing lessons, we'll have hygiene lessons, we'll have social distancing lessons. All those things that are new and unique to us, we will be teaching kids and educating them along the way about the best ways to be safe. Yes.
Great.
Yes. On the instructional side, Dr. Williams, if I say anything incorrect, I'm going to ask you to come down here and correct me. So as we said, we do want students and parents to make the choice that is best for them. They can choose coming back to seated classes with our safety protocols, or if they are more comfortable, or even if online learning better fits their life needs right now, they can sign up for full online classes. Just a little summary. Acellus is the primary tool that we will use grades K through 6. We have about, and I say about because the number changes on a daily basis, 350 students signed up for our K through 6 programming. That number goes up every day and it comes down a little bit every day as people talk with the buildings and change their minds about what they want to do. And that's why I think that 2-week window at the beginning of the year will be important. We want people in the correct situation for themselves, be it seated or online. So we want people to try those online classes. We hope that they find it very rewarding. If they don't, or if they feel they're ready to come back, so within that first 2-week window, they will be able to do so. Obviously, we will let anyone move from a seated environment to an online environment at any time they wish. Charlie, do you have a quick question?
I worked yesterday at the junior high registration, and there were some questions about online, and there were some parents who were kind of timid about, or tentative about whether it was going to last, whether it was going to work,
Right.
For their student. And I think part of it is they're a little uncertain about the rigor, like how much time to expect. Of course, this was junior high again.
Right.
And then just making sure, like, what time frame do I have to decide, I probably told that story or talked to someone about that a couple of times yesterday.
So what we publicized was we wanted people to make that choice if they want to take online classes by August 12th, which was yesterday. But we know people are still grappling with that decision and still wrestling with it. Quite honestly, we're going to leave that window open. As I said, they can move from a seated environment to an online environment anytime they want. We wanted to get kind of a recommended cutoff date because, and I'm going to jump down here to the next line, grades 7 through 12, we have a variety of programs that we're offering, another 330 students roughly there. So if you add those two together, we're getting up close to 700 students taking online classes, which for our district of 4,000 kids is about 17%. Between 17 and 18% of kids are signing up for online classes. We've offered virtual classes in the past. We've offered our own virtual classes, and we've had students take virtual classes through different MOCAT providers, but not 700. So this is difficult. Getting kids in, getting 700 students into online learning programs, getting them enrolled, getting classes assigned, that's new. We are very much learning along the way. Our next steps as we go will be enrolling kids, getting devices checked out, and getting them into the program. The rigor, the reason that we chose the courses we did is because we feel they provide the appropriate amount of rigor. Yes, it's going to be a school day. If you're taking 7 classes online and 4 core classes and some electives, you can expect to be busy close to a typical school day. Some days probably more, some days a little less. But it is going to be demanding. It is going to be a full learning experience. The grades are going to be transcripted at the high school level. Credit is going to be given. The grades will go on your permanent record all the way through. So it is a good choice. For people who want that online learning environment or feel it's safer at this time, we feel that the programs that we have in place are sound, they're rigorous, and on the next slide I'm going to talk about the support that our teachers, that we're going to need from our staff to help those kids through that. So I actually rambled so long I forgot your question. Did I address it, I hope? So.
Yeah, and they have, if they start online, they have that first 2 weeks.
Correct. So
Figure out if that's going to work for them.
So we are giving through September 4th, which is the first 2 weeks of school, an open ability to return should they wish. Once it gets past September 4th, we will ask them to wait till a natural grading break during the semester to return to seated classes. When I was here last time, our first recommendation was to wait till the semester. After visiting with you and thinking through that, we did add in the ability to transfer back in at the quarter break as well, so that gap wasn't quite so long.
Good. Yeah,
and obviously, if we have students struggling in online learning, it would be similar to having students who struggle in seated learning. We would provide the remediation and the help, get them assistance, point them in the right direction, just as we would with a student who's struggling in a regular classroom. One of the larger challenges, that third bullet down there, is providing support for students with IEPs, giving them the special ed minutes that they need and the services they need. We have a plan in place that we're implementing. Dr. Reed and Dr. Williams have been working closely together to make sure that we have that covered. But again, that's not easy. That takes some creative thinking, and it takes some flexibility to make all of that work. So we are providing that, and that's our commitment to doing so. But I appreciate their work greatly in figuring that out. On the support side, The K through 6 Acellus program will require some district teacher support, mainly monitoring and student support and communication, and some help along the way. But within the program itself, our teachers are not providing the direct instruction, but we do need some contacts within the district to reach out to kids, make sure they're making progress, and help them out along the way. The Edmonton product in grades 7 through 12 has a little more extensive role for our district staff. Same monitoring and support, but there is some grading of work involved in Edmonton. There is providing some student feedback, and there is communication along the way. Again, it is not providing the daily direct instruction, but it is selecting the types of activities that students will be doing, and in English it will be grading some writing assignments. In math it will be grading some open-ended questions that they have. Because of that, we've worked through what we feel are appropriate stipends that we would like to offer teachers to work with students. Because of the increased level of involvement through Edmonton, we're asking your permission tonight to approve a $100 stipend per student, and that this is for our teachers to work with them throughout the semester. On Acellus, the load is a little lighter, and we've tied this to some other positions, some other activities in the district, a $40 per student per semester stipend that we're asking for your approval. We believe these are appropriate. Once we get into the school year, if we find, frankly, that we've missed the target, we may come back to you and ask for a revision on that. But at the end of this presentation, I will come back and ask you to approve the stipends for the teachers. I'd be happy to take any questions about that now.
Are you going to limit how many students?
We are. So at the Edmonton, the guidance that we've gotten both from the company and from previous experience in working with the program is 30 students or less is what they can manage. Again, the grading level sometimes is heavier, sometimes is lighter, but we, from talking with them, they felt like that was a realistic ability for someone to handle. Same with, and we thought we would go with a very similar account for Acellus, although the load's a little bit lighter. Cleaning and sanitizing. If you don't, Dr. Dare, if you don't mind, if you want to take them through here, and I'll click wherever you want.
Sure, sure. So obviously we're going to rely on more than just our custodians to help with this process. So we've already started the training process, separating first and foremost the difference between cleaning and sanitizing. And we have different products in the district, part of our Green Clean solutions. The custodians will still focus on doing the cleaning. Those chemicals are a little harsher. They're a little more, what's the right word? They require a little more attention to detail and time. So some of those cleaning substances have to be on surfaces for longer periods of time. So the sanitizing substances that we've agreed on and what we've narrowed down to are safe for students and staff to handle. They are allergen-free. They are, all of those products are on the CDC and EPA list for COVID. So we feel like we have a good process there. Hand washing and sanitizing, as Mr. Hounds mentioned, there's a lot of education that goes with that. One of the key points is with the sanitizer, for a long time we've been alcohol-free in our sanitizer products. That doesn't do anything for COVID. So we're switching back to alcohol-based sanitizer, and that requires a different level of training and awareness from our staff, just from the safety and well-being standpoint for everyone involved. It's not anything that we can't handle, but we do have to do some education and training to deal with that. And then, as we mentioned before, the increased health and wellness signage, it is about education, but it's also about reminders. So we'll have constant reminders throughout the building, the buses, restrooms, all those things. And our messaging has been in this that we all have a role. So there's not a single person in the district that's not going to be responsible for cleaning and sanitizing and helping keep that going, because it's going to have to happen frequently. And so that looks different in every classroom, in every situation. This week we started exploring some ultraviolet light processes, and we think we've got some applications in science labs and libraries where that could be very effective and help us move things very quickly. So we're always looking, always open to thoughts, and we're trying to add, again, many layers to that process.
In terms of your products, are you getting your supplies in as you've ordered?
So it's fascinating. We're actually doing pretty well at this point.
Okay.
The thing we struggled with the most in our sanitizing products are the actual tubs for the wipes. We have cases of wipes. We have cases of chemical because we mix all that on site.
Okay.
But it's the plastic tubs that all that goes in.
Oh,
Fortunately, we were able to find a little bigger tub, holds more wipes. We think that's going to be okay. Normally that might be an issue, but we're going to go through them. So we're going to shift those to the more frequent classrooms at the junior high and high school where they'll be sanitizing constantly. And we think we've got a good handle on that. So.
another question I got yesterday, and I haven't looked at the school supply lists. I know in the past, the school supply lists include sometimes a can of sanitizing wipes, and they are, you know, nowhere to be found, very difficult to track down. Do you know if that's something that we're asking parents to bring, or do we really have enough of our own?
Those are still on there that teachers have requested just to help them in the classroom. Our expectation is that's our responsibility to provide as well. So we would expect us to provide everything we need to.
Very good.
So our list said if available.
If available, okay, very
And I
good.
know I talked to the teacher today. I apologize because I think this is the first year I couldn't fulfill the list.
Yeah.
I felt so bad.
Sure.
But yeah, I think the teachers understand.
Very good.
And we have had some parents who've lucked into cases or whatever that
Sure.
have brought in,
Yeah.
knowing that it's probably going to be difficult. So,
Right.
but yeah, I think we've got a good handle, at least to get us started for the first month or two here, and until we get a good handle on things. And so Chris Hedrick at the high school has been great in helping with that process. So.
Good. Okay, great.
PPE equipment, so we do have masks coming for all staff. They are a little delayed in shipment, as with a lot of things, but we are anticipating receiving those by the end of the month. We do have enough disposable masks. We currently have just over 50,000 disposable masks on site, so we feel like we can address staff and student needs with that. All instructional staff will receive face shields. We are providing instruction that those are not as effective as the face mask. However, in some circumstances, it is a good alternative and at least a reasonable step in reducing that risk. Disposable masks, as I said, will be available for all students and staff as well as visitors to the building. Barriers and sneeze guards will be provided where situations when masking is not feasible. So for instance, in some of our special education rooms, we have students with specific behavior and health needs that prevent masking. So we're doing what we can there to adjust and try to provide for a safe environment for them. And then all students are being provided cloth masks through the State Emergency Management Association. We have not received those yet, but they are supposed to be on the way. So that will help us as well. In giving them a reusable mask.
Our neighbors at St. James were kind enough to volunteer to be a distribution center for the SEMA masks, so we keep emailing Dr. Johnson wanting to know when we can come get them and not hearing back, so I don't know what the problem is, so we will check. Okay? All right, athletics and activities. So some news here. I'll run through this and then talk about some news that came out today that you may have seen if you were on social media or watching any of the news. So fall sports practice did begin August 10th, so that's this past Monday. We are delaying collecting money for activity fees and season passes until we get to a point that we are very confident that activities will take place. We are following all MSHA guidance and recommendations for how to have a safe practice. So kids are being screened before they're allowed to practice. We have masking guidelines for students who are not involved in strenuous activity at the time. So as you move off to the side, the mask goes up. Very proud of our coaches in how seriously they've treated this. So I want you to know that they are not just simply rolling balls out there and saying, let's go get them, boys. Volleyball, football, soccer, softball, tennis, cross country are all going on. Our coaches are taking the guidance from MSHA very seriously, and they are tracking things closely, and I'm really proud of how they're handling it. They are trying to do the best job they can, both for their athletes and for the other people on their coaching staff to keep everyone safe. So before we talk about some Ozark Conference guidelines for attendance, one bit of news that did come out today, Michigan did send out a statewide blast. They have made it possible for districts, should they wish, to cancel their fall season and move their fall season to spring. The options in the spring would then be to offer a fall season during the first part of spring. The spring season sports would then move to late May through July and have separate non-competing seasons at that time. You would also have the option, if you wish, to run concurrent seasons during the spring. Your fall season's going on at the same time as all of the spring sports. Now, this news has been out for about 8 hours, and so this is very new. Our thoughts, talking with Dr. Dare, is this would be a part of an Ozark Conference approach, I believe. I think what this is me, I probably shouldn't make predictions, but my prediction is the two metropolitan cities on each side of the state, this will be something that some of them will adopt very quickly, I believe. The question will be what the rest of outstate Missouri does. And so I would say we're not ready to make any type of recommendation at all. We've gone into this fully planning on offering fall sports, and that has been our plan all along, to do it safely, to approach it with our Ozark Conference neighbors as we move through this, and to do it in a way that gets kids back into the activities that we believe are so important to their high school career. I will keep you updated if there are further conversations. You're going to hear more about this in the news, I'm sure, over the next week, because we're getting to the point, we are getting ready to host our first event next Friday, which would be the football jamboree. And so let's talk about that. So let's set that other news aside for a second, although I can answer any questions that you have about it. But with the jamboree coming up, we got together today to put pen to paper, count our capacity in all of our facilities, and come up with a ticketing plan that we believe is safe for all of our events. So what we came up with, we believe the max capacity that we would ever offer in our facilities right now is a 40% capacity. Just to give you some numbers here, the max capacity in Lions Memorial Stadium for football is just slightly over 2,800 seats. So we used 2,800 was what we used. Our approach that we took here was to start down at the very bottom with the tiers that we have talked about here at the meeting and see where that gets us. So starting out at the very bottom, Tier 1 is no one attends, so that one is easy. So that's just kind of there as a placeholder. Tier 2, which for us is the first tier, would be a ticket allotment for each player, coach, and cheerleader, a set number of tickets that they could determine who they want to come to the game. We don't want to say just parents, grandparents, family. We believe the players should be able to determine who they want to come. We are reducing what the Ozark Conference has recommended. They recommended 400 visiting tickets for a football game. We've cut that down to 200 instead. But if we do that, if we do a ticket allotment for each player and opponent, that brings us up to a 26% capacity with just that group. So that's cheerleaders, players, coaches, visitors, all having a ticket allotment. So what we had decided was six tickets per participant. That would bring us to 26% capacity. If we were to add in the next tier would be student body fans, the ability for students. The number we selected there was 200 students. That would bring us up to 33% capacity, so 1/3. So that Tier 3 with the group that I mentioned before and then adding in student body brings us up to 1/3. Tier 4 would be that entire group, and from there we worked on what was left, how many seats were left to get us up to that 40% capacity that we felt was the upper limit, and that would be 200 additional public tickets that we would make available to hit that 40% number. Now, our plan right now for our opening event, which is the Jamboree coming up this Friday, is to limit it down to the lowest tier, the Tier 2 for us, which is a visiting ticket allotment and a player's ticket allotment. Now, part of that is that the Jamboree, so the Jamboree is typically a 4-team event that sees 3 visiting teams come in. This year, it's a 2-team event. So right now, Capital City from Jeff City is the other team that would be coming for the Jamboree with us. Since it's only a 2-team event, it will also include our freshmen. So that number of ticket allotment for players has gone up because we're including our freshmen in this count. The freshmen are not included in the regular game count that I mentioned to you earlier because they don't dress for games. So beyond crowd size limitations, which we can come back to because I know you may have thoughts and questions about that. Within also, we've talked about what concessions might look like. We've made alterations to that. We're not serving out of the regular concession stand there at the football area, moving down to a more open area and limiting it to prepackaged items instead of cooking anything and handling anything like that. I don't want to get too far down in the weeds. We feel like we have a fairly complex system for people to get their tickets. We want to avoid as much money taking as we can at the game, and so we'll looking into doing some online purchasing of tickets, online system for or getting the tickets to the visitors, let the visiting team handle the money so we're not doing it at the game, and we would be expected to do the same when we visit other places. We would take care of our side of things. So at our gym, when we're talking volleyball, the capacity is 1,200, and the absolute most at a 40% would represent 480. If we were to only do kind of that tier 2 visiting ticket allotment and then tickets for our participants, that put us right at 286 out of 480. I didn't have that percent written down there. Which would give us, if we wanted to go up to that 40%, that leaves room for approximately 200 open seats that we could sell beyond the participants. Our soccer capacity is smaller. The capacity of the stadium is 150, so the number that we used was 2 tickets for every participant plus another 30 for visitors. And then there isn't a lot of room for open ticket sales there just because the capacity is so much smaller. Softball would be very similar. Our softball, very nice softball facility, but seating capacity there. We're talking about possibly even removing the what's the correct term? Windscreen along the outfield so that people could sit out there and spread out in their lawn chairs and look in. So trying to do everything we can to maximize the people that can come while keeping distancing possible and spreading people out.
You had mentioned, I think in one of your previous presentations, getting the live streaming going for the softball field, maybe soccer, football.
Right.
Is that still in the works?
So the gym is done. Mm-hmm. My understanding, and Gina, you may correct me, is that we were selected by Huddle as one of the teams to receive cameras for the football stadium, but I don't know a timeline if it's going to be ready.
You want to repeat that?
So we were selected by Huddle, which is a software program that teams use to record their games, to receive equipment through a grant, beta phase as they're trying to roll this out. So you had to apply. We were a finalist and were selected to receive the hardware and everything we need to be able to live stream the games from the football field. So it's technology that will follow the action on its own and broadcast kind of like in the gym.
So this is the same system that's in the gym,
great.
But this is a new system for outdoors. So they've not had this system, so we're going to be a test.
Okay.
And so...
And update it, what you said about it being delivered middle of next week.
So, yeah, so the timeline, as we understand today, is we should have that delivered to be at the middle of next week. So an outside chance that we could have it up for the Jamboree next Friday, but certainly the primary goal is we want to make sure that it would be up for the following Friday, which is our home opener with Bolivar, and the same night as Bulldog Pride Night. So at the soccer field and the softball, those provide a few more challenges as far as getting a mounted huddle type camera. We would rely on portable devices to broadcast to our Facebook and YouTube channel. Correct, Gina? Sure.
The outdoor version, just a little bit different, but yes, they will sync to our blog.
So Mrs. Zervas is saying that we have devices ready to go that will sync to our Bulldog YouTube channel, similar to what people have watched in the past events in our gym during basketball season or volleyball.
So softball and soccer will be able to watch.
That is our direct hope. We are confident, yes. I will stop short of saying that we have every detail figured out to make sure, but yeah, that is our full intention. We believe if we're going to limit attendance at these events, it is imperative that we make it available for people to be able to watch. In fact, Sandy King stopped by my office today and said that they'd been over to help her get her TV set up all ready to go so that she could watch any of the events that normally she would attend through our live streaming. So, yeah.
I'm certainly not claiming an expert, but I filmed all of our softball games and stuff today on a $300 camera that live streamed to Facebook.
Thank you for volunteering. We may be contacting you.
One other question for you on football. I know our marching band was going to work on some kind of a modified halftime performance of some sort. Are they planning to be in the stands, or are they ones you're just going to have perform at halftime? And
so initially, they have not started anything yet because they've not done anything this summer. So it would be later on through the month of September, closer to October, before a halftime presentation is ready. We are visiting with them, and Dr. Dare is meeting with them next week. Their involvement for pregame is very possible, possibly playing the national anthem, fight song. Part of what we're trying to figure out, too, is how that fits into any attendance limitations that we have, because you're talking about a 200-member band plus 200 to 400 parents who may want to come watch this as well. So trying to balance all that out on how we make all of that work we've got, so that's not an issue so much for the Jamboree, so we can get to next Friday.
Yes.
But very quickly, we have to have an answer for the following Friday. So we are actively working on all of that now.
Very good. Thank you.
So back a little bit on this ticket process.
Yeah.
Because somehow this has already gotten out into the community, because I already have some questions about it.
Well, Waynesville posted their policy yesterday, and since we're part of the Ozark Conference, they may have equated some of what we're doing with Waynesville, but that would be my guess.
So how is that going to work? So if I've got a child that's a cheerleader, I get 6 tickets allocated for me, that's something that I can just purchase?
So actually we're not calling them tickets, we're calling them vouchers.
Okay.
So they will be printed with the event and the date on it that specifies what it's for. So the first one would be, what is the first date? September 20, 24, 29, 28th, 29th, whatever that first day. It's the first home football game versus Bolivar, this and that. So you would have 6 maroon vouchers that the player would take home and be able to give it to their parents, grandparents, family. When you come to the game, that voucher gives you the right to purchase a ticket into the game. So you wouldn't be able to enter without the voucher. Same for an away game. If we play at Waynesville, Waynesville will send us 200 tickets for the game. We'll distribute those to the players. It'll obviously be a smaller amount for away games than home games. They'll distribute that to the people who want to attend the game, and you will show up to Waynesville, present your voucher, and get in the game then.
Oh, okay.
Buy a ticket to get it.
Buy a ticket.
Well, what we're really down in the weeds, what we've tried to do in the Ozark Conference is we'll handle the money collection for our visiting games, and everyone's just going to keep that themselves. So if we're all keeping our visitor money when we go visit, then it all equals out in the end, and everyone ends up in the same spot. But that just helps ease the burden on the home team on the number of people that they have to service at that time.
The goal of the voucher is to, so that people know if they're going to be able to get in the game, so they don't come to the game, to the gate, ready to go in, and we say, sorry, we're at capacity.
Yeah.
That way they know ahead of time that they're able to get in.
So if we are going to make a limited number of tickets available to the public, if we're going to go up to that level, we are not going to do it where they show up not knowing ahead of time that they have a ticket to get in. We want to set up an online system where they can go in, pay for their tickets ahead of time. We can stop when we've sold 200. Get them their voucher. So we don't want people showing up, waiting in line to get in, and then being told we're full. So we want to avoid that. So I'm sure if you've been watching any national news, this is a major topic of conversation at the college level. It's very fluid. I will tell you right now, our full intention is to move ahead with fall sports. But I'm sure that was the intention of the Big Ten a week ago as well. So this is very fluid, and we will keep you updated should anything change and seek your guidance also on the best way to move forward. Okay? Yep, go ahead.
My question was on capacity. I sent an email out last Friday.
Yep.
We've all been to the football games, right? And you're getting in and out of there, going to the restroom, and it's absolutely packed, even if half those people are there. I mean, that was a big concern to me.
Trying to find the right number, what percent capacity is the right thing is, I think it's, I don't want to say, I don't know how to pull that percent out and say this is the right number. That's why instead of approaching it that way, it's what can we get at each of these, where does each of these tiers put us? So we have a better understanding of how many tiers to go up.
Yeah. In my mind, our goal is to keep these kids in school, hopefully for the whole year as long as we can. And sports are super important. I definitely think we should move forward with it. But, limiting the capacity a little bit more than 40% may save us some trouble down the road to where maybe we don't have to school down because we didn't have so many people at this football game that didn't necessarily, quote unquote, need to be there.
Well, even our tier 2, we believe gets those people most, I don't know what the right word is, to get those people who are most invested in the kids who are participating, parents, family members. So even if we stop there, around 26%, that still gets those people who will be there. And then the question is, how much other student participation do we allow? You start talking about band.
Right. A lot of kids.
It's just a lot of moving parts there to factor in at one time.
And that's part of why we wanted to start at that kind of that 25, 26% range to get a vision, yeah.
To get a visual of
That's a good idea.
this is what this number looks like in the stadium.
So as far as the safety guidelines go, are we asking people to social distance in the football stadium and wear masks and?
We are still figuring that right now, as of this point. We are asking people to social distance. We are begging to please wear a mask when you can't. The question will be whether we're going to ask people to leave who aren't. We are still talking with the other Ozark Conference schools to see what type of solidarity there is on that, quite frankly. I'm just being very honest, just seeing where everyone is.
Sure.
Okay?
So you haven't decided on the first Friday football game?
We have not. We would like to get to the Jamboree and see what a crowd looks like with the numbers that are there and see how comfortable we are with either going up a little bit or saying, no, this is enough or even a little less.
I like that approach.
So we have lots of parent meetings coming up. Fall sports, after they get through their first week, we have parent meetings this weekend, picture day, parent meetings. So we wanted to be able to share with parents this weekend what the plan was going in and be able to answer any questions they have. All right, I'll move forward. We can go back anytime. Finally, just some recent events that have been going on. So we've had registration and open houses going on at the high school. We've had freshman orientation. We have the junior high brought the 7th graders in for a special day for their own 7th grade orientation along with 7th and 8th grade registration the following day. The middle school yesterday had fourth grade orientation, welcoming new students in to get used to the building, and then today, fifth and sixth grade registration. So those were all handled a little bit differently depending on the age level. The younger we went, the more we relied on scheduling individual family appointments going in. The high school handled everything, encouraged everyone that they can do anything they need online other than maybe picking up a yearbook. What we saw was just vastly reduced numbers at the high school of people needing to go in. Some of you have helped out or been there. All the reports that I'm getting is the experience has been very positive. And in fact, there were some changes that we did this year that they said that they would kind of like to institute for years going forward. Really like some of the scheduling of appointments to bring people in and be able to know who's coming and visit with those people. So I think this week's been a very positive start in getting people back in the buildings, and then elementary will do the same thing next week. And so those K-3 kids will be going in next week. We had new staff member training start this week. So on Wednesday, we brought in our 19 new teachers, 20 if you count Dr. Williams, for our initial training about becoming new Bulldogs. So we spent all Wednesday with them along with some technology training. They were doing technology training today. They'll be back here in our boardroom tomorrow for a curriculum and instruction session with Dr. Williams. Dr. Dare, we're taking through some evaluation stuff, and then we'll also visit with the brand new teachers for the Mentor Protege program. Just a reminder, we're inviting all of you to join us for lunch tomorrow to meet the new teachers. That will be at noon at the high school. It will be the new teachers, the board, and the administrators. Normally, we have the Chamber of Commerce ambassadors join us as well. They have very graciously sent nice gift bags for all the new teachers, but in order to keep the numbers down, they will not be joining us for lunch, but they will be there very much in spirit and thought. So we appreciate what they do in welcoming our new teachers to this community. So RHS cafeteria at noon tomorrow. So we hope that you all can join us. So again, I'm going to jump back here to this first slide. So these are kind of the things that I want to update you on, things that have been going on since July 30th. It seems, you know, we are heading quickly till August 24th, and getting everything in place is moving right along. I guess one thing I was going to mention, so normally we invite you to the full welcome back assembly at the middle school where we have everyone together, and of course I think part of the soundtrack of a new school year is the band coming down playing the fight song in the cafeteria. Now, there's just no better way to kick off a school year, but we are doing a virtual meeting instead. We have recorded a video to push out to all the buildings with key information and welcoming them back. And then Dr. Williams, Dr. Dare, and I will be around to every building to visit with staff and touch base with them and answer any questions and just welcome them back and thank them for all they do. So that is one change to the normal schedule that we would typically have during a regular school year. So I'm going to jump back to the instructional design and ask for your approval for those stipends. Now, I do want to clarify here. When we're talking about Edmentum, we're talking about per subject area, not just $100 for 7 subjects. So if a teacher is working with that student in math, we're talking about a stipend. And
essentially, this is kind of like an extra duty pay, like the way we pay our coaches or something
it
like
would be
that.
similar.
Or a sponsor, similar to that.
It's similar to what we would do for launch, but far reduced. But when we talk about budget, we are saying yes to a lot, but we are saying yes to things that are essential for us to be able to open and provide the services to students. And this online side, there's a lot of yeses going into that. And it's a very tall pile of yes. But it is all necessary if we're going to make this work for 700 students. We need quality products and we need the support to help kids along the way.
So, no, you go ahead. We started the same way. So, is this, these are things teachers are going to do on their plan time, or they're going to do outside of the classroom?
Yes.
Because these are teachers who are teaching the full day in class.
Yes, it is.
That's what I was,
So this would be during the plan time, in the evenings, and this will be people who are volunteering. These are people who are signing up
for extra duty.
for extra duty to teach these kids.
Okay,
Yes.
that makes sense.
So this is, right now, somewhere close to 700 students, times however many courses those 700 students are taking. So it's not just 700.
Well, on the Edmonton, not on the Acela side. The Acela side is more of a full program. For that, we're talking a per-student basis. But on the Edmonton side, yes, it will be multiple stipends per student.
Great.
Yeah.
Any idea on total cost?
I did, and for some reason, I didn't bring it down here with me. So half of what launch would be, but I would say close to $500,000. I would say somewhere in that area.
Would that extra stipend money go toward the retirement as well?
Yes.
Go all like salary?
Yes. And we're going to collect those numbers on a quarterly basis. So, you know, with kids moving in and out, that number could change all the time, but we've set some measurement points throughout the quarter to pay partial sums so that we're as accurate as we can be.
I see you getting out your calculator.
It's too big for my head.
I won't say that it won't necessarily be 7 hours of stipends per Edmonton kid. We think there are some subjects that we can group together a little bit differently and meet that need. There are some subjects that the grading level and the load is a little heavier. So those are the ones we want to make sure that we take care of. We think there are some subjects that we can handle in different ways, even through rise hours and some other options. So as I said, we are putting this all together as we go. We may come back to you with some alterations as we learn a little bit more. But we have used Edmonton in this district in the past. So what we've done is we've reached out to those teachers, asked them about their workload, asked them about the student load that they can handle, how much time they're talking, and then we also base this on some of the other stipends that we've paid in the past for some online learning during summer school and during the regular school year. That's where we ended up with this number.
Remember the trouble we had for the school year last year is whether or not the app and website were going.
You want to go back to that?
The grass wasn't going correctly on the practice field. That was a rough one. So.
I'll make a motion that we approve the stipends as presented.
Okay.
Second.
I'll second.
There's 3 seconds.
Three of us.
All right, do we have a second? All right. Is there any discussion about this? So sizable expenditure that
Lots of
we
yeses.
don't have any choice about, really. We want our students to succeed.
We have to do
Right,
well.
Mrs. Atkinson?
We have to.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried.
Okay. So a lot going on. We'll keep you updated, and we'll roll into Friday, and then welcome everyone, full district staff back on Monday. So a big day on Monday. So thank you.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right, we are on to Pearl and comments. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Back to see you, yes. We don't have any connectivity issues with you here in person.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Very good.
Okay. Before sharing with you what I have about recent events in student life, I want to preface these announcements by telling you that I don't have too much to communicate with you up until the school year actually begins. Any athletic camps, competitions, trips, or other news that I typically cover has been canceled due to the pandemic, so my information on events is fairly limited. That aside, early in last week, the high school held registration for all of our grade levels during our open house event. According to Dr. Pritchett, around 530 students showed up across Monday and Tuesday. High school yearbooks for the 2019-2020 school year were also available for pickup, and early orders were placed for this year's yearbooks.
The junior high school and middle school open houses were held yesterday evening and ended at 6 o'clock tonight. As for the elementary schools, including Mark Twain, Truman, and Wyman, the opportunities for open house will be occurring in the middle of next week by appointment. As it's nearly impossible for me to safely communicate one-on-one or in person with the students that I'm trying to represent, I once again reached out through social media so that students could briefly and anonymously share their sentiments about the upcoming school year and recent learning plans. And as I've observed throughout quarantine as a whole, our student body generally reflects the same divide that we see on a national scale in approach to our recent struggles to facilitating an appropriate transition into a new school year. I had some students that took a more conservative and forgiving approach on the return to learning measures. They say that social distancing and wearing a mask the majority of our school day amidst other measures that we need to take is a necessary evil and certainly worth the effort to prioritize our community's health as a whole. And on the other hand, I have some kids that are concerned that they won't get to experience, fall football games or events like homecoming and other traditional aspects of the high school experience that they want to see in their senior year, but they understand that that kind of has to be balanced with what, the obligations we have to our community. They're also worried about how going online or social distancing regulations will affect individual performance within their classes, especially advanced ones. I don't expect that there's anything as a school board that, we could take action on or necessarily do for these educational concerns beyond all the effort that our administration has been putting in to make sure that both virtual and seated students get the education that they need going forward. But I felt like it was within my duties to communicate this concern just because it was expressed so many times. All right, that's all I have for you today. So if you have any questions for me, we're good?
I appreciate it. I think you're right. I think students are feeling a lot of different things, a lot of different emotions and different reasons that, things they're looking forward to this year. And I agree. I think we've all worked very hard to try and put things in place that we can get back to some sense of normalcy, but to say that we're back to all the things that make school special and all the things that make this school district special, we all seek that, and I hope that we get back to it soon. But you're right. There will be some sacrifices made in order to stay open and provide our core essential mission, which is providing that education for kids. So we feel it. We feel it all. I wish we had an easy answer for it, but your comments are right on, and I appreciate them greatly, speaking for our student body.
Yeah, we're sympathetic as a whole. We understand that, we aren't the only school district going through this. Everyone in the country, there's a set protocol. Like just yesterday, I was watching officials on the television talking about this issue. We don't know what direction we're going in. I think that the actions that we've taken so far have been the best that we could have with the lack of information in our situation.
Thank you also for surveying the students. That's
Yeah.
I really appreciate that when you can't be in person yet and finding out some good information. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments board members wish to share?
I just wanted to commend, I guess, the staff on the making the appointments and going to registration was very smooth. I experienced that today, actually, with my daughter, and it was just great. Normally if you go, you have to wait in line, and it takes a little while to get in there to see the teacher, and we just was straight in, and we were done probably within a good 15, 20 minutes. Would have been shorter if I wouldn't have kept talking to people, but that's my daughter. But no, I think it's, if it's something they continue, I definitely think it's a worthwhile to continue that process, and because it definitely made it smoother.
Well, I'll reference an article that was in the Daily News today from MSBA a news article concerning the task force for learning acceleration, and they're talking about acceleration versus remediation. And we're going to do that within this district. Am I on tap? Okay. So at some point in time, Dr. Williams, I think that would be good for parents to understand what we're going to try to do. I don't know if you want to address that now. Just briefly, I can address it briefly. Okay. Very exciting. I mean, a lot of work. All right, a lot of work went into this. This task force. Yes, okay.
So the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education worked this summer on a task force for accelerating and closing the gap for those standards which were missed. And so that's where I'm going to start talking to the staff about tomorrow. And I've been working with them on the steps exactly outlined in the LEAP. So
what is that term that you just used?
You use term, and you got to explain the term when you say LEAP.
I really don't know what it stands for because we're not going to do the test in the district, but we are going to do all the steps leading up to the test. But we evaluated all the standards of Missouri. We assessed which ones were missed last year, and then we paced out for the entire year how we're going to address those. And so part of that is a test that DESE is going to allow some districts to use, but fortunately I came into a district where Mr. Hounsome had already put in place NWEA, which is a test which predicts where the student is and what is already missed. So that's exactly right. So we have to look at it as accelerating the learning forward so that no gaps are missed and we're not 2 years behind. Dead on.
She's hitting the ground running since she's
Yes.
been.
So as I read it,
okay,
when you get to a topic, you assess whether or not the students have the tools to succeed.
That's
If
exactly
not, then you
right.
go back and remediate, and then you accelerate
That's
forward.
exactly correct.
Okay.
And from the week I was hired here, the week that I first came, which was the week before July 1, that's what we started working on. And I think I kind of culture shocked people a little bit because we were trying to move forward without losing 2 years of learning. And so our teachers are so committed, they're so positive, they've jumped on board and they're ready to go. So.
All right. I hate to ask this question because you.
Please ask.
What do the online students do to?
Right. Okay, so for Acellus, which I can speak to, and the high school and junior high are using Edmonton, which I'm not as familiar with, but they both have a grasp on it. Dr. Fulton at the junior high will be monitoring and delivering that. The counseling department and Josh Smith will be delivering that at the high school. For the Acellus program, there's a pre-test for every objective that you get ready to go into. So, and I will be monitoring all the K through 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Part of the monitoring stipends are teachers going in and selecting those types of things, Jim, of how far do we go back, which types of activities do we want to include in the lesson. There's also the ability to do a pre-assessment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we're going to use the pre-assessment at the Edmonton level because basically what it does is it exempts them from other objectives throughout the year. And we do have a seat time issue that we need to address when we're awarding credit. So we're going to have students work primarily through the entire program.
Mm-hmm. I'm very fortunate to have come into a district that already had predictive and trajectory data tracking with the NWA. I'm so thrilled that you guys already have that in place because it's going to allow us to immediately come in, find out what was missed. We've already spoken to the teachers from the year before, quickly remediate or pick up what was missed and move forward and cut the fluff and get it done. So we're excited.
There's no fluff.
Well, we love a little fluff as elementary people.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So for the other board members, if you're interested, it's only 24 pages.
It
You
was
can
in
find
that
it on
updated-
DESE's, it's on DESE's website. It's a little hard to find, but if you would search for the Task Force for Learning Acceleration, and you get to their recommendations.
Great.
Okay? Very interesting reading. Other comments? If not, we'll go on to item 7, written reports.
Mr. Packard, let me
Yes.
just throw something out real quick.
Okay.
Tomorrow morning, we will have Mark Ruther with Honer & Associates here with 10 of his staff. So specifically focusing on RTI tomorrow, but we will visit all of the other sites for some of his newer staff to familiarize themselves. So we are hitting the ground running as officially tomorrow morning.
Okay,
Great.
very good.
It does, but it's starting. That's
starting.
great.
So item 7, written reports, I'll just call your attention to the calendar, the food service report, the bus inspection report by the Missouri Highway Patrol, which were good marks, and the monitoring reports, the final financial reports for FY20. So thank you for those, Kendra. Is there any other business? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, big week coming up, we're not going to see you guys again until school's in, so we wish you guys the best of luck. I know there's things we haven't thought of, I'm sure, things that are going to pop up. You guys have done a great job so far, and I'm pretty sure you'll continue.
Appreciate it. We'll keep you guys updated as we go through, so I appreciate it greatly.
Okay? Is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Sue. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Carla. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
I throw away my note that says no bimbo bread bid. Every year there's, in the bread bid, there's always this company, the Bimbo Bakery or something. Yeah. And it's just,